We're live. This is down on the computer. Computer's going down underneath now. It's the sun's hitting. It's hot. Shade. I shifted it and it's this corner. Just to get in this corner, there you have to redo the thing. It should be worth it. I think that's serious. Okay. Alright. It didn't matter. I got it. Save power. I'm not gonna run the inverter until my things are slower to be need power. I think this inverter too should, you know, what my natural grocer would do. That natural grocer is a smoking room. You don't have any chewy fully? The insects. It's out here. I know. That's what I'm clear with. Anything like that. Yeah. Right here. Well, it's you got 3 years, Joe. Oh. So much. Okay. That's like gut check.
Yeah, and Jack was how do you just bring down the cars? I don't think you should.
Someone said that.
All you have to do is turn yourself that way. Turn this way. They're framing. The framing is pretty much like years. I tried to give it a good framing of interaction. You stand up, and then interaction to it. You know. That was all I saw.
Welcome, everyone, to the Sunday of the 34th Energy Fair. We are reimagining again today. And if anyone missed the ecstatic dance yoga this morning, you missed out because it was great to get you waking up and moving around with the energy. But we do have a great panel that we started last year, our wellness panel. And the reason we kind of introduced this, I could speak on this for a minute, um, is that we have been talking about the coordinators of the Energy Fair for a while, that besides bringing in music and movement, that energies all of it with wellness as well, right? And with health and healing, that energy is equally an important part. It is all of it, and that we wanted to kind of integrate some of that. We have some great healers and people in the community, young and old. And we just wanted to be able to talk on how that affects energy, affects our wellness, and how we can use energy. And of course, we've integrated things like ecstatic dance and yoga and qigong and tai chi and other breathing and movement and birthing. There's a lot of great things going on at the wellness stage about that today. So I want to give you a little update on that. So right now on main stage, we've got wellness from 10 to 11:30. We're going to be starting in just a minute, trying to gather up our wellness people. Um, we do have another builder group. We have the Owner Builders Unite, and they're going to be at noon here. Okay, so I know that's a big, popular, long-standing thing about home building. I live off the grid. I'm building buildings right now, so I'm supportive and interested in all that. But please join us for Owner Builders Unite around noon here. We have Dreamers of the Futures panel this afternoon. That's a new panel for us at the Energy Fair. And that'll be Anya and Goldie. Goldie's out running tours, and I was leaving the retreat center that I stay at, my retreat center, this morning, and I'm like, where are all these people coming from in the bus? And they were all there to go look at some home builds, which was great. Later this afternoon, we have regenerative agriculture with Bobby Gill. And that'll be at 2:45, and then we start our music on the main stage, and that's going to be going all evening tonight. We're going to be grooving and dancing and moving energy up here. So as we like to do with our closing ceremony at 6 p.m., which will be sandwiched by some of the music happening. Just a little more information about our other stages. Down at Cloud Stage, we are going to have the Freebox Fashion Show. Okay, and that's around 11:15. and that's going to be a blast. So please go down and check that out. We've got at noon Reimagine Homes and Commons. They're going to be doing, that's our art installation team, and they're going to be doing, a talk and talking about what's been going on over at Art Installation. And then we've got some music with the audience, Reclaiming Your Sovereignty with Diamond from Oppenheimer Ranch, and then we have Seraphine in the afternoon over at Cloud Stage before we start music here. So, we've got a lot to choose from, but we certainly want you guys to be able to partake in different stages and different events as much as possible.
As soon as you get a second,
Just a couple
real quick.
more items over at Wellness Village, okay, which is past our food court. And there's some signs to lead you down towards the
Can you lift
children's
the laptop up? I'm
playground.
gonna swap the
And that's
laptop.
where our
That black one,
demos
don't
and
need it.
builders
The
are
ones
off
that
to the
don't keep every
left
count.
of Wellness Village. If you haven't been down there, please go on down. We've got acupuncture, energy work, reflexology going on down there, and you can also get some direct healing that way. But down at Wellness Village, we did our primal flow ecstatic yoga here this morning, but they've got birthrights with midwife Alicia Chambers, who's been in the community for a long time. That's at 11:45. We also got sacred womb healing with Natalie McCrae at 1:15. We have Reimagine the Universe as Story with Krista Cabeza, and then we have Peter May and Sonic Apothecary and friends, and Peter will be a part of the
I've got
wellness
this too
panel
with
this morning as well. And as we mentioned before, please support Succeed with the pancake breakfast. That'll be going on till noon. So if you're going to have a late breakfast or an early lunch, you can go enjoy some pancakes and sausage, etc. Our demos today starts at 10:30 with Building with Stone. Then we have 12:30 Hempcrete with Suzanne Roget. We have Aircrete with Bruce Couture. And then we have Building a Home with Straw Bale with Tony Kanata and Freedom Off Grid. Okay. So thank you so much for the updates. We just want to let you know what's going on, and we'll be starting the wellness panel in just a minute. Thank you.
Okay, I haven't even started yet. You know what? Mom, it is the nurses on me.
So we're just about to start the wellness panel. Our host is Laura Enzer from Mountain Laurel Apothecary, and she hosted our host sponsorship event over at the Apothecary. Please check out the Apothecary up here right behind the park. And Laura is going to be moderating our panel. Our panel will be discussing many different facets of the world of wellness and perspective of wellness practitioners from different fields. So we have a variety of people today on our panel, and I'm going to give this over to Laura so she can introduce everyone and get started. Good morning.
The thumbnail
Buddy,
loaded
thanks for
upside
being
down
here. I
for some
know it's
reason.
early.
So
Sunday morning of the wellness panel. Peter,
That's fun.
thanks for making it. Oh, food is important, as we all know. Well, I'm really, really excited about this group of people here today. I love each and every one of you, and you're so great in what you do, and thanks for coming. I really wanted Lillian here with us today and kind of had a plan and then got thrown for a loop. I'm really grateful the way that it kind of just go down the line and introduce you all, starting with Miss Dr. Kim Engar. Such an incredible healer. Dr. Kim's experience with medicine and the healing arts spans over 30 years. In addition to her naturopathic medical practice, she is an international lecturer, teacher, and master herbalist. She has been spotlighted on Shift Network, Healing on Earth, and the International Qigong Association, as well as healing and chakra science teachings in the U.S., Bali, and abroad. She was faculty at Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine for 10 years and has taught and been an honorary member of the Environmental Medicine Board, as well as her online teachings for doctors and the public. In addition to her medical practice, she consults with holistic clients worldwide about integrative and natural healing modalities. She is committed to the healing arts and treating the whole person, body, mind, and spirit. She believes the key to healing starts with treating cause to dis-ease and integrates many healing and spiritual traditions in her practice and teaching. More information can be found on her website, drkimengar.com. All right, Peter.
Okay.
Peter May has been living on the in the Crestone area. On the Crestone. I kind of thought you wanted it that way. Okay. Peter May has been living on the Crestone area since 1993. During that time, he has designed and built several passive solar houses and greenhouses, managed and updated 2 of the local fire departments, and provided land stewardship and forest restoration for hundreds of acres using a number of methods, including low-intensity prescribed fire. One of his specialties is utilizing the healing power of local plants, including pinyon pine, Rocky Mountain juniper, and wild oregano. Hi, Regina. All right. Thank you, Peter. Jessica Foreman. Jessica Foreman is a storyteller, ritualist, herbalist, and writer dedicated to excavating a more accurate tale of humanity's place, purpose, and potential in the dance of connection that is life. In her work, Jessica approaches the cultivation of health as simultaneously personal, social, and mythic. Through her handcrafted apothecary, stories, poetic musings, and seasonally available one-on-one sessions. Thanks for being here. Okay.
Come check out my wares.
Cassie Morningstar. Thank you especially for being here. Bit last minute. All right. Cassie is a licensed massage therapist, 3rd-degree Reiki master, and practitioner of traditional energy healing modalities. Born and raised in Denver, Colorado, Cassie first experienced massage as an infant to relieve symptoms of colic. At 7 years of age, she was introduced to Reiki energy work.
Doesn't that sound
In
just like
Cassie's
my
adult years, she has become a seasoned massage
this looks better?
therapist. She has been a meditation
I noticed a lot
guide,
of people that
women's
walk
support
by,
group
they were looking
leader,
like
and
people
has
who
been
look
involved
they
in
look
many
here.
apprenticeships with spiritual leaders, shaman healers, and educators.
Yeah.
Cassie offers
Yeah.
a wide variety of massage and energy healing modalities to balance body, mind, and
No,
spirit.
no, that's good right there. So,
And last but certainly
like
not
this, but it
least,
seems
Miss
like they're
Irwin.
blind here.
Arwen
Well,
earned a
again,
I
Master
don't
of
know if we should
Science
take that
degree
down.
from Colorado
no,
State
it's gonna
University
distract
studying
them with the
botanical
trees.
medicine.
It's just a
Then
matter of
underwent
the
a
people,
four-year training
because you're
to
looking
become
at
a
the person,
registered
they're
biodynamic
not looking at you.
craniosacral
They're
therapist.
just,
I was thinking
She has
maybe
been
open
doing
it up
deep study in Taoist
I
Qigong
mean, we
and
could,
Chinese
this way.
five-element
but
theory while
it's gonna,
running
then
her
we're gonna
clinical practice
be
in
redoing
Crestone for
everything
the
from
last
that.
3
I
years.
wouldn't worry about it, but maybe for
I'm
next
sure
year.
many
I'm
of
just
you have
observing. I
gotten
mean,
wonderful
I
work
do
from
see
her.
people that have come by and go like this and catch it
All
here,
right.
but a lot of time they're looking at us. Oh, you know,
Him did me.
and then
Right.
they're forgetting to look
I'm
here.
Laura.
So I don't know how we'll fix that, but maybe next year we will do the
I'm
whole
the apothecary.
diagonal thing, or
Truly
bring
just
it
a
out
plant
to the edge,
ambassador
or
and ready to
kind of have a
have a
couple
place for
different
the plants
options.
to
But
live in town.
because we had the same problem in other places too,
Fight for
where
them.
if for some reason people's blind eye just
But
seems
really
to not
today's
look
not
this
even.
way, just
Yeah,
imagine
but
some
like
All
this
right.
spot.
So I really wanted to start off the panel
diagonal
today with
or
a tribute
around
to
it,
Lillian
around
McCracken.
it. Okay.
He was
Yeah.
an incredible healer, an herbalist, gardener, magician, alchemist, friend of our community for a long, long, long time. I don't even want to try to say the
Make
amount of
faces
years
and
that's probably wrong, probably been long. And unfortunately, we lost her this summer. And I really wanted her to be here with us today.
Dance, monkey dance.
So I just wanted to open up the stage
Dancing
for
monkey.
you to share a story.
I'm not the performing monkey.
Something you wish you could have said to her or learned from her before she
That's what they
passed, a
always say,
product
right?
that you loved, or just a sentimental moment that you shared.
I don't know how much the
Anybody like
delay
to go
is.
first? Um, I would say I have a really cool story about Lillian. And I knew of Lillian because I started my herb business in Styna in '95, and I had a store up there. And I heard about her being down here in the valley, and I met her a couple
I did
times.
make
I
each
didn't know her
one of these
well back
pieces.
then.
So they are
But
local,
when
they
I
are
was in
handmade,
Arizona,
And they're one offs and never
we had the
replicated
and
ever.
Southwest
never replicated.
Herb Conference
Very
at
cool. And they're all real. There's no
Southwest
plastics or
Naturopathic Medical
resins.
Center. We would host it there. Had a lot of
Glass or
amazing people.
semi-precious
Michael
gemstones.
Moore before he passed, and a lot of people in the Southwest herbalists. We certainly
She did a
had
great job on
Andy
them.
Camp, who's still around. He's wonderful. And Phyllis and a lot of other people would
I use a
come
lot of
and
the, like I
teach
have
and still
the
do
lava rock
in
ones, the
April.
male one she has
And
over there.
Lillian came one
And
year,
like
but I
you can
didn't
use these for
recognize her.
oils
And
if you
because
summer.
I taught at the
Put oil
school
in
and
the
wasn't
lava.
teaching at the
They absorb
conference,
it
I
and
was
release
just
it
kind of
slowly for.
help
So
host the
that is something
conference.
that's really nice about
And
the
I
lava
sat in the back
rocks
of
that
the
she does.
room during the
And she does that
lecture,
mainly for the male
and I was sitting next to this woman. I'm
you
like,
know.
she looks familiar to me. And I just started talking to her before the lecture started. And I said, "Oh, where are you from? You know?" And she said, "Colorado, but you wouldn't
Thank you,
really know
sir.
where it is." And I'm like, "Try me." And she says to watch. And I go,
Over by
"Are you
Walsenburg?
Lillian? Oh my gosh."
Yep,
And
over on
we
25.
realized we knew each other, and we hadn't seen each other probably in 20 years or something. And it was just a really cool moment. And we got to hang out at the conference a bit. And I hadn't come back to Colorado at that time. And so that was kind of a precious moment for me. We got to talk about plants and spend a little time, even though that we really didn't know each other that well. But it was just kind of one of those fortunistic moments where we could kind of be off, spending time just sharing. I think what part of what Laura wanted to do here today. So thank you, Lillian. I know you're here in spirit. And we love you.
So I met Lillian probably in '94 or '95, and she was the one to go to for astrology.
You good on coffee and
And,
everything? You good for the night?
She was really good.
I'm gonna go throw away.
She was really good, and she loved to compare people and how they get along. And everyone knew that, but there wasn't that many people here. So it was small. And we'd all sit down and do our charts and compare charts and everything. And what I'm going to miss is the phyllanthes, among many other things that she makes. And now I'm looking at the store, and they're starting to dwindle because I'm sure there's a little bit left, but it'll be gone soon. So hopefully someone will fill those shoes, maybe on this stage. But yeah, we all miss the way.
And Tom, excuse me, Tom surely still continue to wear a whisper and things. I imagine. Um, I love Lillian. Lillian, I miss you. I pray you're doing well there in the other world. Um, I sought Lillian out when I first moved to Crestone 7 years ago. I was looking for any herbalist to learn from, so of course she had me over, pulled up my charts, got looking into my psyche, and you know, she was a very private person, so we developed a friendship. She's definitely a mentor, an elder, a friend to me. But I feel like after 7 years, she was just starting to maybe be about to invite me in to help her. Um, One other thing about her, I feel on a collective level, is Lillian, at least to me, and I feel it in the collective field, she was the wise woman at the edge of the wood for all of us, whether you knew her or not. Like she was in this field holding down a really powerful connecting point for us. So I think she still is in some ways, but I feel that void with her gone now. So love you, Lillian.
So I met Lillian, but I didn't know her very well, and I do enjoy her products. So I'm hoping that some of you can continue that. Um, I wish I would have gotten to know her better, and I would know she's here in spirit, and may she rest in peace.
Yeah, so I did not have the pleasure of knowing Lillian, unfortunately, but I would just like to acknowledge that our teeny tiny community that is so close knit has been been losing loved ones about every week this year, and I know it's been really hard for a lot of us. And I just, want to acknowledge that I know a lot of us are hurting and feeling the loss, and to just remind everybody to, go forward with gentleness, kindness, and patience, for yourself, for everyone around you who may or may not have lost a lot of friends this year. So yeah, love this community so much, and yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you guys. I get the love my sounds like something. Well, thank you for sharing. Okay.
What are you
Yeah.
sure have?
It's better to have a talking stick, anyways. Thank you guys for sharing your stories on her. I feel like just talking about her has like brought her into the field. I kind of have chills. I feel her here, and that's really what I was trying to do. Um, I had an interesting relationship that wasn't even in person with her. When I had first opened the apothecary, I caught word that she was a little bit like, oh my God, what was that? Opening an apothecary without consulting me? And at first I was just like, oh, somebody be mad at me for this. How could I make this right? What did I do wrong? And in retrospect, I really like admire her protection of the medicine and that she wanted to make sure that the representation of it in this place was correct and honorable. And after some time, I think we both processed it, and I reached out to her to be on the panel, and she responded very happily and wanted to be a part of it with me and us and a part of the shop. And this was only like a week before she passed. So having that final connection and leaving off on a good note means so much to me. and I think for the future of the space and the apothecary and what it can hold, and in honor of her. So thank you, Lillian. We're feeling you here. All right, guys, are you ready to jump into some questions? Okay. Question number one.
No.
In the world of wellness, what do you feel is your biggest gift or offering? Who would like to go first?
And everybody else was talking. Literally watching me, but it didn't freeze. It just in this moment, in these like one frame, everybody just stops.
Would you like to?
It's the Matrix glitching.
Yeah, so you know, it's an interesting question. I would have answered this very differently a few years ago. But right now, what I would say is my greatest gift, and what helps me offer service in healing to the community is my tie to my ancestors, and just, you know, feeling their depth and their commitment and my connection to the root, that goes as far back as time. And just, you know, really trusting the Tao and trusting the ebb and the flow of life. And you know, when times are really hard and things are really low, you know, we can find the greatest treasures down in the deep dirt. And whether it comes from our ancestors or whether it just comes from us really opening ourselves to the depth and the pain, and loving loving it anyway. And you know, I find that when I embrace that and I just hold on, you know, there's threads that we can hold on to in the most challenging moments of our life. Excuse me. It's the yerba mate. It gives me the frog voice. Um, you know, what I have found is that when we don't collapse and we don't disappear and we show up for the people around us anyway, we find that they're going through the same thing too. And you know, we all can help each other just by noticing, like, oh yeah, this is what we're going through right now. And it's never just me and it's never just you. It's a collective challenge that we all face because we're all, you know, just floating on the sea of life and facing challenges as they come. You know, and we have our ancestors that built us some kind of boat inside of us that helps us float along. And, you know, we just have to reach out when people are, you know, and show up. I think the biggest thing is to just show up.
Maybe he
Even
can
if you're
come over and
having a
check
bad
us out.
day, because likely it's not even, you know, sometimes when you're really, really open, you can feel other people's suffering. And, you know, and then that camaraderie can be like, oh yeah, man, I feel that too. And let's just, you know, dig deep and find out how to heal from it and, you know, laugh about it together, about how crazy this moment is, and feel that we're not alone. And that can be really, really healing, just knowing that we're not alone in our pain. And we can kind of wallow in it like a pig in mud and just get some joy anyway. So
Never realized
it's like
you know.
Okay. In the world of wellness, what do you feel is your biggest gift or offering?
All right, my biggest offering, I would say, is opening up my heart and being able to hold space for my clients and friends and family to facilitate their own healing from within. I don't consider myself the healer because the healer is within every single client I work on. So my gift is just the ability to hold that space, that feeling to occur. My answer is a lot less lengthy than yours. Beautiful. Thank you. I know this is a interesting question to answer for yourself. Um, I'm kind of formulating here as I go, but I feel similar in that a lot of it stems from like where I source ancestrally and um, the prayers that guide your life, the practices, the prayers that set me up to show up to each day and do my best when I'm engaging like with a client or a friend or anyone um, in interaction. Yeah, really being in the heart, almost
You need to have a conversation.
being so present, but even stepping out of the personal to be able to kind of step into a more mythical level with people. I think that's the level that a lot of healing comes from, a lot of perspective comes from, this like story myth level. And so I would say my efforts to meet the world at that level, if that even makes sense, and with language. Um, I feel like that's not necessarily something we think of as wellness, but how we're speaking, what we're speaking every single day um, matters. Like, as I thought about this entire panel, I'm like, wellness, it's like everything is wellness. There's nothing you do at any moment in any day that doesn't affect your wellness. And we talk all the time. And so, how we're speaking, the words, but also where they're coming from, like in your body, where they're sourcing from, at what layer of your being, has a huge impact, not only on tuning your own system, but how you're tuning who you're talking to, how you're tuning the field. And so I'm not saying I'm like some expert by any means, but this seems to be kind of like what has arisen in my journey of studying wellness as kind of my area that I'm interested in. And I think there's a lot that we can continue to uncover with our words, our languaging. Um, that can go a really long way in our wellness. And like I said in my bio, like personal, the social, the collective, the mythic, there's absolutely no difference. They're all interwoven. We're all touching on all those layers all the time. Like even when you're at home alone, just sitting on your couch, like you are in touch with the field. And yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Jessica. So I think I remember the question. And my biggest gift is that I'm sensitive to life force. And what do we mean by life force? What do I mean? And that's basically, we're talking about language, we're talking about thoughts, feelings, whatever it is. And I think I've been sensitive to that since I was a little kid. And as a guy, that's kind of weird, right? Because guys usually aren't. Or you try to hide that. And so it took me a long time to be able to interpret that. And Crestone, being the landscape that it is allows me and I think many of us to focus on numerous things to bring that forth. And that life force then comes through, the plants and the minerals and the air and the elements for us to then utilize to help balance. And so that is the challenge, though, for me is interpreting the life forces and the flow, especially here. And we have such an opportunity because it is so animated and so powered up. People are so passionate that It's like the cartoon is here, and the lines are so big in the coloring book that you can't miss. You just have to start coloring.
When is it? When is it? Nothing yet.
It's funny, Peter introed what I was going to say. It's hysterical. Um, and she introed you, so you were all sharing. That's very cool. I wanted to add to that in that also working in the field of healing for a very long time. Um, I had land here in Crestone back in the late 90s. And actually, I came through here in 87. I was quite young. And I had memories here, like a lot of us, that called me here. And so it took me a while for divine timing, to be here full time. But this place, as we've talked about, and most of you folks know, is a place of healing in traditions, not only Native people, in many traditions, as Eagle Bear said, with the Apaches, Hopi, all the Native tribes, but even going back to Anasazi and the ancient ones. This land is for that, and you can't move to Crestone without healing yourself. So even as a healer, I'm always humbled and honored by that experience, and being able to be a caretaker and a holder of energy for the labyrinth here, which I am now healing at that location. That has its own energy as well, and the Howells and the folks that came before with Sanctuary House and Saima in that location knew that, and they were doing, of course, their own wellness and healing there. And many people have shared amazing stories with me about even this weekend, um, with, hey, I lived there and I had this experience, or I birthed a baby there. And so the place is still teaching me about that. And in order for me to do that work, I have to be in a divine space every day. I have to give that energy a chance to work on me, which with Qigong healing and all the other things, yoga, I certainly have done that consciously, but I would say I'm learning it on a new level every day, because the divine nature of the energy that's here to help us be well and be free of dis-ease it's a process, and it just keeps continuing, and things are amping up, but that also means the sky's the limit in healing. And feel very blessed to be here and be part of that with everyone. So,
Can you guys hear me well enough? This one? This one. Thank you guys. Beautiful, beautiful answers. And I'm just so blown away and impressed by the depth that you all hold. And what I thought was such a simple question went layers and layers and layers of beauty. Thank you. Okay, question number 2. I was going to ask, do you want me to answer? Okay. All right. I feel lately my biggest gift and offering is my willingness to power through and work and slave away to create a space for the plants. Truly feeling like I'm meant to just hold space and work and serve and create the space for you all to heal and offer. Um, and I'm just like really in this space right now of just like working and serving. And I feel that is like my biggest gift, is my willingness to serve the plants in the world of wellness and the ones around me in the field, and opening up doors for you guys and connections and a space for all of us, and just keeping it wholesome and together, and in honor of the plants and the words that come with the plants and our ancestors and all of that. Thank you all. Okay, question number 2. I'm just going to want to go first with this one. What do you feel is that very first step that should be taken into wellness? What is the foundation to wellness? Where do you feel is the right place for someone to start?
very in-depth question. I'm sure it will be covered in great nuance by everyone. I feel the first place to start is spending time alone in the forest. Here where we live, these wild beings, you can't not begin to absorb what it is to be rooted and connected and in your nature, and have a chance to just listen to just the perfection out there. I think that's a really important practice.
Looks like it's my turn. So what I would say, and what I'm going to say is to begin, and for myself, and what I would recommend to others is to find an openness. Number one, to pay attention to what's going on, whatever that might be. And for some of us, and for many of us, I think it is going into the forest by yourself, and just being there. And then once there, being able to perceive or connect with the life forces that are flowing. And then the third thing that I would say, which I want to just offer out, is what actually makes it possible to heal fully. And I think we've been touching on it, and that's the field and allowing the field to generate. And I think we do that with practitioners. We do that with each other. We do that, and that is what kind of guides the life forces. And we can do that in many, many ways. And that's what my passion is right now, is discovering how is that field generated and how is it stabilized.
What
I'd like to touch a little more on openness, because that's something that keeps coming up with myself and people I'm working with. Even in the body, energy and fields and meridians and nadis and however you want to look at that, and of course they're all connected. There can be a static, and one of my dear friends, Dr. Alice, she is a counselor and naturopath, but she's been doing it for like 40 years. And she always goes, well, there's fight and fright, and then there's freeze. And we forget that freeze is there as well. And that's static energy. And then there can be, we say in Chinese medicine, not only is the channel maybe depleted of qi or prana, however you want to look at that, there can be, disassociated energy in there. And that openness is huge, right? We can think about it mentally and emotionally as well, any area, but even in the physical body, I'm still learning every day. Like when I have people who have had a little stuck energy, say in their sciatic region, or anywhere in the body, that's affecting them physically. Part of the healing process is removing what doesn't need to be there.
I
And
love
can say
the
that
pyramids.
emotionally
They look like
too,
jellyfish. That's what they
but
remind me.
then
Okay,
there's
they
But this is the
space
prototype, so
that
this is not
occurs.
really correct. Like
And then
other
things
ones,
need to adjust to
the
the
heads are
space,
smaller and then overall
which is
longer.
tricky
And I think
they
it's more
because
jellyfish
people
like.
want
but
to
it
fill
still
the
it
space
screams
very
like Man of War,
right?
jellyfish,
We're all
and you can
hurrying,
tell.
and this
Because at first I
energy
thought it was like
and this vibrational
Cthulhu.
energy we're
Right,
in right now, for however you look at that.
I'm like
Sometimes
Green
when the
Cthulhu ones. I was like,
geomagnetic
huh?
and the
right,
energy
right,
is
right.
happening,
Nice.
it
So I came
causes
over
us
here
to be
because I
very
was thinking about
hurried,
your
myself included,
Oh yeah.
and we just have to
your
like slow
headband
it
last
down.
night.
And I find that's
And one
something
of the
that
things
I'm
that
saying
occurred
a
to
lot
me
to
was
myself and
this,
the people
just
that I'm
that this
working with, is
S,
like,
which
just
is
just slow it down as
orientation, is
best
going
you
to be so
can.
small
Sometimes you
relative
can't,
to this.
but I'm very happy to see
And I'm
here
wondering
at
if
the
it's going to
energy
be like
fair, and maybe the
disproportionate.
rain helped with this. Of course, it slowed
I don't know.
us
I don't
up
know if
to
it
get started,
matters. Like
but it
obviously this
slowed us
row is going to
down.
be on
That
top,
nurturing energy that we
and then how
talked
far
about
out
with
do we want to
fungi and
space
everything,
these?
holding
I
the
think you're going to end up
water,
with a lot of
and
these
water
bands.
holds
Well,
space and
yeah, a lot of
energy,
my hair,
and then it vibrates
any,
that. But that
this is
that
like
holding
renewable
space for
space
each
right
other,
here. Yeah, so
I
it's
think
gonna
Jessica was
it's
saying
gonna
this
cover
with
up there
words,
anyway.
but
Yeah, if I
also
have my
holding
hair
space
down
in
or
yourself
anything,
and
yeah, all
honoring
of
that
this
space is
is gonna
okay.
get
You don't
covered
have
up.
to
Okay,
fill it
yeah,
right
all
away.
right. Unless I have my hair
And
out, right?
that's
But
something I
it's
think
just gonna
is
be that
really
6
important,
5 6
and how the
inches
body
okay
works,
of
because we
space.
want
Well,
good
that's good. So
energy and
like
good
I'm
things
gonna
to come into
is
that
that
space,
what
right?
it is?
Without
Seems to be
judgment.
about
But sometimes you don't know. You know, sometimes you just need to sit
just maybe 7.
with what is wellness
So
for
6
you,
to 7
and
inches
that
for
can
this part.
be in the
Maybe
forest, like
6.
you
Go with
said, and
6.
being with nature that is
That
teaching
way,
you
however,
that
you need to
space
scale
and
that to
animals.
kind of
And
I mean, the
the other
S I can only
day,
scale
I
so
was
much just because of
walking,
the width of the band itself.
trying to get
Right. You know what I
ready
mean?
up
And
at
if
the
you have to
retreat
add
center because we had our
extra
first
width to
guest, the
kind of get it to
Southwest Dancers
scale
Day of Washington.
proportionately, I'm fine.
And this
Okay.
deer just
Because my other
popped up,
question was like, do you
and
want
it
to turn
just
it? But probably
looked at
not
me
because
with
then the
those
S
deer
is not.
eyes, you know, like
Right.
holding it.
And there,
And
and
I go,
that's exactly my
and I
that's
just
where
took a
my
minute to
conundrum
have
was. Is how
space,
do I
you know,
get that? I can
and
follow
I just took a shot.
the directions to get it to go sideways, but how do
Oh,
you
yeah, no, I can do
flip
that.
it?
No, I can totally do that.
Okay, so
So that was kind of like
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
I want to say
But
was
I'm
basically
fine
said, but to
with
simplify,
band
to begin
being
with wellness,
extended as far as width
I
to fit
feel
that S.
Yeah.
that
However,
so
Yeah.
many of
I mean,
us
it'll
you
fit.
need
that
to
I think
make
it'll just
it
be small.
this hustle and
Yeah.
bustle of
Okay.
life and
So I'll
well,
shoot
I'm not
going
expecting it to be like
from one
that
thing to the
wide
next
or
Right,
and
right.
not
that
really
tall
living
or
huge.
just
So
just a
S on your
small
head.
little kind of
start
third eye
to
crescent symbol, probably about
want to
that.
tap in and tune
Okay. You want a
into
crescent symbol?
the energy within your physical
Or
body
not crescent, not
and all
crescent.
I was
around
like,
you.
do I need to add something?
And the way that
what
I
I'm
do
thinking
that
is kind of
when
like
doing
the
earth
eternity
ceremonies,
sign right there
connecting
under.
to earth,
That's
and all the
kind of
energies around
inspiration.
in the
Okay.
soil
Okay.
and plants, just
Right, but
in the earth.
that band,
There's
that S,
Yeah.
that
is
infinity
not separate
there,
from what's with us.
side down.
So
Good.
that's
Okay.
So, however, again, you need to scale that to make it proportionate, nice.
Okay.
Really beautiful.
All right. Good.
So for me, I would say
Lisa.
that the foundation of healing and where to start is to recognize
You
that
said green for the
healing is
kids.
not a place or a destination. It's a lifelong
Yeah.
journey of self-discovery
Yeah.
and, you know, and embarking on an immense love.
Oh, you did right.
with
Perfect.
life.
Change it though.
Okay.
You know, to say that there is no end to healing is not to say that you'll never feel better,
Use your pens.
but just to say that there's always deeper to go in the enjoyment and the appreciation of life and the experience of our bodies feeling well. And
I just swapped the two.
I think that's
The two colors because I had this one is green.
Yeah.
And these is purple.
Okay. So
But I want
switch it.
this is purple and these.
I would say that's one reason so is the point of what you
And
all
still same
said,
gradient
but
within those.
most importantly,
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
happening to
yeah,
me
okay.
is
So
the
I'll
foundation
do the
where
grade. I
start
can do
start
gradient on the
from
purple
where
and the
you
green. You want a gradient on both?
Sure.
Because that then the, if I can get a like a lighter purple and get it, it'll make it
are
pop.
understanding of like you're not separate, you're one entity. That's
Yeah.
really what
If we decipher this later, it'll be a
where you are is such incredible foundation for the path of healing that you can walk on from there on.
It's nice.
And that
It's
is
really
itself.
nice.
I've been so into like purples these days myself.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is
Okay,
fun.
I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. Leaving it a little more technical.
They are
Um,
late, so
from your perspective,
Yeah.
what are the
But,
pros of allopathic?
she bought them. This was just way too big for her style.
Mhm.
So she gave me. It's like maybe you can do something. Nice. So I broke down the piece and I have these three. There's a pair of garnet earrings over there.
Okay,
Oh, I
so
see, yeah.
I was raised with herbs, with my mom, and I remember spraining my ankle, and we go out to the garden that my brother planted, and there was comfrey there, and so we made the comfrey in the bucket, and I let it cool, and I put my ankle in there, and
Like
didn't have any idea what was going on. I just trusted, and then the next day I could go out and play. And so the next time I sprained my ankle, I went out to the garden and did it myself. And that's when it healed me again overnight. And maybe my thing was about being able to play. You know, I didn't want to sit in the house and not play. And so that set my perspective or perception as a kid. I might have been about 7 or 8 or 9, who knows. And if that plant can heal that way, can other
Yeah,
plants
that
heal?
was actually part of it.
And I haven't even
that was part of
touched
an earring set that
the
came.
allopathic word yet. But my brother
But I
went
just
on to
started
become a
thinking,
naturopath, like Kim. They know each
getting
other,
rid
they're
of the
friends,
junk.
colleague.
It
And I got
has
to
to
go to my
release.
brother's
Once
classes
you
at
do this,
Bastyr.
that's
And being raised with my mom and herbal
after the
medicine, it was in me, like, of course, and everyone knows this. And I go to camp and I go in, no one knows it. No one knows that the plants heal. And people had other remedies over the counter and other medications. The biggest thing from this perspective is that it seems like it's a recipe that may or may not be appropriate. Allopathic is introducing symptoms that are counter to what's correct? And it doesn't often even get to know the individual there. It's just like, and that could be true of naturopath too, but it's even more so. Like it's removed from our experience. We can't go out and make those medicines. With plant medicine, we can begin to understand and we'll see the people that are really experienced. And I think our culture did that with shamans and like Tibetan
Yeah,
medicine,
I have to-
local people that brought in the different dimensions. So
I can't.
also there's money behind it, and we know that money. Not that money's bad. It's just it's all for the profit and not caring. And I've seen that in my own family when they've chosen this. It's like just get them through, and then get their insurance, and then who cares what happens. So that's my own, it's my own experience. Who wants to go next?
There was no. Okay.
Um, well, I have an interesting perspective on that because I worked in hospital for a long time that didn't start before I was an herbalist. So I was an herbalist and also was a paramedic and cardiorespiratory therapist. I worked at the Heart of the Rockies. I was a trauma coordinator. So I worked alongside allopathic medicine for a long time. I was planning to go to regular med school out of high school, but I was already doing plant medicine, and I thought
They're real bees.
I don't really. That's not really going to integrate what's important to me with the plants, and having worked with plant medicine from my early teens, I just found this like dichotomy that didn't resonate together. And so I didn't go to allopathic med school, didn't become a brain surgeon and go and work with brain stuff with neurology. But I think there can be a union of this because, I have great colleagues in the allopathic world that do want to help people, and they do help people. What Peter said is true, and I've seen this even in the herbal world as well. I think it's a human condition of profit and self aggrandizement to get caught up in that. We as human beings tend to do that. And the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that you can't patent an herb. You can patent a group of herbs, and companies try to do this. And I think that's a great thing, actually. I've had people come in my herb store and literally start writing down years ago my recipes and not even buy anything and be like, oh, I like your thing. I'm going to go make it and sell it. So it doesn't mean just because you're working with natural medicine that you're not susceptible to that mentality. I was just so excited. And that kind of took me aback, when that happened many years ago. I saw that. But I think there's a place for it as long as we're all coming from a pure intention. And there's a place for, setting a bone, although there's holistic ways to do that as well. And maybe better ways. I mean, I worked with bone setters that studied in Japan and traditional, there's not too many of them in this country, but that's really magical. But I think that the greatest gift that I've seen is seeing allopaths see how natural medicine works and make that connection. And I think that we all can encourage that. And I always encourage my patients too, because I work with a lot of very sick
Those are really
people
cool.
from around the world as well as
It
those
really
in the
is.
community. So I
She wants
have to
about-
integrate if I really want to.
It really
help
was. I was
people.
actually. I saw that.
I always encourage them to share what they're experiencing with their
Yes.
allopathic
So
doctors
Shungite?
and people
Yeah, I
in
believe
their
so.
world, because
Shungite
some of those people need healing
Which
too,
one's Shungite?
and they're very frustrated with what's
Wait,
going
this
on
is the metal? The
um,
metalish.
with the
Or
control that's
no, no,
going
no, no.
on. And
Oh.
I
Good.
have supported people with
Onwards.
insurance, but I don't take it up
Are those
front,
ones you
even
got from Miss
though,
Frank?
especially in other
Or did
states, I
you?
could.
I don't remember where you got those. So let me look at
But
metal.
No,
and I
these
don't
are
want to be controlled by
India
that.
Indian
And I'm
hematite.
very thankful
that makes
for
sense.
being able to
Okay.
practice the way I
Then I
do.
will stop doing it.
But even people in my own
Oh, it looks really
profession, I'm
cool.
also a Chinese
I saw
medicine
it
doc,
yesterday
but
when she had it. I
you
was like,
know,
that's freaking
with the naturopathic,
I have to restrict
it
his
has so
sales
many
every
sides to
time I
it.
make something and I show it
But
to him.
really
What do
treating
you think?
cause,
He's
no
like,
matter what
oh,
you're
that's
doing,
really
you
cool.
know, getting to the heart of
Somebody tried to buy
what's
this
really
one off me
happening
yesterday. She's like,
and
"Well, that's
making
one
that
my husband
connection.
would like." I'm like,
And
"No,
I think
son."
we
I'm
can
like,
do
"I
that
know it's fine."
to
She's
try
like,
to heal
"Are you
people
sure?"
in the allopathic
And I've
world.
I've
And
played
some
this.
people
clothes on
want
your
to do
back?
that,
Yeah.
but
Basically, I'm like,
there is a
I've
time
never
we have
sold
to treat
anything. I have a rule
symptoms.
about this.
And I've
It's
done
fine.
that
She gave it to me.
homeopathically on the ambulance in the ER, you know, and taught
How many
students
people have
about
tried to
that.
buy your
I
wallet off of you
remember
that I
Oh,
made
too
for
I was
Christmas?
many.
getting loquacious,
Almost my
but
leather wallet. This one
taught
here.
students when I was
They tried to buy this
teaching,
one off me because it's
and we
Pickle
had
Rick from Rick and
some
Morty,
urgent,
and she did such a good
borderline
job with
emergencies,
like
you know, blood
lining it
sugars
and then
500,
having a little
you
Morty.
know,
So she
postpartum
said, "Oh,
infections,
will you sell
serious
it to me?"
stuff.
No.
And we
Well,
use natural
but
medicine for that.
please.
But
Basically, I'm like, no.
having the
Just
knowledge
call
of
me and
how
order
it
one for
That's
makes
what
us
I said. I was
come
like,
to
go
work,
ahead and order.
you know,
and
and
I'll
being
make
present,
one
of
fresh
course.
and
But
new for
there's
you.
a place for all of it. I
I mean,
think we
it's
just
friend
have to
a
encourage
Star
the
Wars
healing of
Mandalorian.
that and
So,
not
Yeah,
the profit
she
and the
hand stitched
manipulation that
right,
can
right,
occur.
right. Hand carved little emblem into the front of the
He really loves that wallet.
inlaid
I
it.
would just say that yes, bring them together,
All right,
especially
I'm
in
gonna get
emergency
back.
situations. You know, being a
See you in a little bit.
responder for the
Yeah, I'm
last
gonna come
I
down
don't
and
know how many
get from the
years,
Plains
we've
office.
seen
Okay, cool.
obviously
Yeah, definitely.
the
See
benefit
you later.
of medicine
Yeah, I'm having a great talk
and
with
always and always. So bringing them together, I think, is the
guy,
key.
and he said he had a shop where he grew.
Well, it's great. I know you said so many good things. Right, like there's a place for everything under the sun. But I think it's really important that
He got cited. Miss.
we can see the picture clearly, you know, like even in the world today, allopathic medicine is referred to as traditional medicine. I think that's really strange. It's not. It's the newer branch with an older root, which is when all of our grandmothers, all of our mothers knew all the plants in the yard, you know, and in the surrounding areas. And then if they couldn't help you when you had something going on, you would go to another expert in the community or you would travel further and there would be specialized knowledge rooted in the land. Like the medicine comes from the land, from the water, from the relationship. That is our tradition as people, as human beings. Like that's where we come from. That is the root. And unfortunately, in this kind of modern myth of allopathy is all. It has its place. I'm grateful for it, but it's not the whole story. It's kind of severed from a root in a way. I'm sure there's plenty of doctors out there who honor, you know, the ones who came before them and who like didn't chemists branch from alchemists? I mean, there's always an older tradition before. And so it's kind of part of that, like, that story. It's a false story. I'm grateful for allopathic medicine. Like, I've been to the hospital. I was very grateful for the technology and even certain medicines at certain times for certain things, but everything needs to be in its place and kind of seen for what it is. And yeah, honoring just back to that root. Like it's all comes from a root. It's not a severed tail. Yeah.
So I have an interesting perspective on allopathic medicine in that it has been a necessary step on the path of discovery in our collective growing up as a species. It was an interesting chapter, noticing I'm saying was. Um, where we went down this path of like real curiosity, um, without trust. It's like, we spent a really long time with trust in this sort of yin feminine space. And then we all were kind of like, well, let's go into the masculine and the yang and really, see what that is without this trust and really discover outside of us and rip apart the plants, our bodies, and kind of see inside and see all the details in their separateness. And we learned a lot from that. And it is not something that we need to throw away completely. It's given us a lot of information. Um, but it is now time to use what we learned by dissecting everything and investigating all the separate components and put them together again and see, how they actually work, synergistically is way more complicated. Okay. And so it's just, we're now adding another layer of complexity, which is challenging. And I think we're up to the challenge that, looking at plant medicine and looking at, physical medicine with our bodies. It's now about taking all of that separateness and looking at it and how it moves together. Which, yeah, it takes a lot of attention to detail, and knowing all of those pieces really, really helps. So we take all that information, move into the next layer, and, using the imaging technology that we have with, the robots is very useful. However, we made them in our image, and in fact, we will discover, and some of us are already discovering, that our nervous system has a much greater capacity to magnetically image what's going on in our bodies in a much more precise, and accurate way. And it's much more 3 and 4 dimensional, than MRIs and X-ray technology can see. And when we're able to drop in to our bodies and witness them in that way, we notice that, surgical procedures are limited. And in fact, our bodies made all of these pieces, and they know how to build them again and maintain them. We just have to remember that and tap into the part of ourself that is responsible for repairing and rebuilding parts of our. So yeah, if my arm gets ripped off, I'm definitely gonna try to go get it sewed on at the doctor. But beyond that, I'll probably be doing some other stuff.
But yeah,
So yeah, sewing is always necessary.
stream.
Cassie, did you?
So to add to what Arminda was saying, I've seen something happening in the last few years that's really cool, and um, where someone either is working with healing and then they have some scan set up, and as a naturopathic doctor, I can order scans as well and train to read them. But that might be happening with another practitioner, and they're pain free, or they're feeling the healing process that's occurring, and then we get the scan and it's behind the energy that's occurring, right? Because, like you were saying, that energy is happening really at a different frequency. And that's not to put technology down. Of course, there's great, amazing healing technologies that are coming with sound waves and light therapy, and things that are really advancing at the speed of light more than some of older technologies. But it's really cool to see that healing is happening at a different vibrational level. And it's really good for, I think, patients in my case who see that, because they're experiencing that healing, they're experiencing that process in their own body and feeling the shift. And then sometimes when they get technology done, it's usually always, even if it's representational 3 months before of what they're at in the moment, which is usually it catches up at some point. Um, but they're learning honor, as Jessica was saying too, like honor what is really happening for them and not being limited by something else. It's good information. And that came up in my world with a kind of serious diagnosis with someone where, and this is what I love about what I do, is that when it's truth, science is also going to support, and I use science. Science just means pursuit of knowledge, right? But I mean science in the way it's used in our culture, um, that it will still support truth if it's pure in its intent, whether it's a scan or whatever. So I don't really worry about it. I'm like, we could do the test, if you like. Or, some people get really attached to that because they have fear. And sometimes it is necessary to do that. But you don't have to be concerned or fearful because healing itself will show the result in those things. And I just find that's a wonderful opportunity for myself, the patient, as well as the other practitioners and people involved to see what's really happening and have that experience. And it's really powerful. It's super powerful. And it's really cool to watch like the change in the dynamics of how that's happening for people.
See what you go first. You can go, Kayla. Okay. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm also not sorry for this question because I really do feel like this is a really important topic and I wanted to touch on it today with everyone. And I agree with everything that everybody's saying. And for me, it's something that recently came up in my life in the last couple of years. I'm kind of similar to you, Peter, where I grew up in Crestone. So I felt like programmed in a way where it was like allopathic medicine is bad. I don't want that in my life. I don't want that in my world. I have nothing to do with it. So when I was pregnant and going to have my daughter, I was dead set on home birth. That's the only way for me. Nothing else could possibly happen. So, of course, Spirit had another plan for me. And in that, I was planning to go to the doctor one time just to get her pregnancy. And I found a doctor who was amazing. And she recommended craniosacral therapy. And she wanted to be a part of my home birth. And she was someone just in the system in Alamosa that I felt so connected to that I decided to keep seeing her. I was blown away. I was like, how could this be? I never thought I would find a doctor like you.
New piece
So
created.
as my birth came
Crestone
along, I
Original.
ended up needing to go to the hospital. And I was able to birth with her. And that experience was so profound for me because at first I was like processing a lot of grief in that my birth didn't go the way that I wanted it to go. But then realized that actually the balance of having my midwife there and my beliefs and being held by a doctor in an allopathic world that was also an open doctor um, was so healing and exactly what I needed and everything. Right, my birth went great, and I felt more held than I had ever felt in my life. And it was that balance of the allopathic with my belief in the natural. And I really think that bridging them together is the answer, and that there's a place for all of it. And you know, every prescription medication is rooted from a plant. It's an isolated chemical from a plant, so it is together already. It's just the intention behind it, and of course, yeah, I agree with the money driven aspect of allopathic medicine in that it can also be in all aspects of medicine, but I feel like it is very amplified in allopathic medicine in that there's just a few people profiting from it and not everybody.
did.
And it's
And I
very
sent you
symptom
somewhere.
based.
I see
For
it.
minor symptoms, of course, it's like
Somewhere?
you're bleeding out, let's treat that symptom. Your arm's cut off, let's treat that symptom. But for minor symptoms
the
that
back
need to
till
be
the
treated
tips.
for more in a holistic way, it is hurting people more than healing them. And being able to awaken people to that reality and like knowing, look at yourself as a whole, not just take this pill for this symptom to temporarily feel minorly better. Not, okay, yeah, I'm going to die if I don't take this, but the minor symptoms that we just want to patch up to go about our day to day lives instead of feeling in a whole. That to me is a problem, and I
Which
want
thing?
to help find a way to bring that to attention.
They always find
Okay, I'm done.
sparkling. Is it
No, that's
eye
sparkles.
catching?
So,
It's
should we go to the next question?
It sparkles. You should write on and we sparkle.
Okay.
This is just a little story. So I was working in ICU in Phoenix for a number of years ago, and we were kind of like a chronic ICU, and uh, and so we had about 17 people on ventilators mostly. You know, it's pretty critically ill patients. And we had, and you guys probably have stories like this, maybe not in ICU, but we had a, you know, pretty large population in that area from the Dineras, from Navajo land, and Navajo medicine man, because there was a native person there passing, and I kind of had to facilitate a lot of passing of people taking off the ventilator. They would wait for me to come on shift and say, "Oh, let Kim do the death process thing," which I was a great gift. But in this situation, it was at night, and the medicine man came to do a blessing on the person who was passing, and we got to watch all of the monitors, all the people who were unconscious, mostly patients, just totally their vitals leveled out. They relaxed if their blood pressure was up or their pulse rate during that process. And there were separate rooms, but that energy to just facilitate that process in an allopathic setting was still so dramatically affecting everyone who was there, the patients that were there, not and us who were working as well. And it was really cool to see some of the nursing staff and other people just kind of like, what's happening, you know? And most of them had an awareness,
Yeah, the
but
chain.
it was just really
Yeah.
magical that even in a setting like
I
that,
know.
you know,
That's why it's
healing
more of
can
a
occur
guy's
like
thing.
this. So I just want to share
You know,
that
because
story.
it's very.
Right.
And girls don't
And
really.
it's grounding.
Ooh, I
It's,
love
you
how
know,
Juicy this is
You're
getting. Yes, say
squished
more.
down.
yeah,
Get down, little one.
like that.
So I just
That's
wanted to
especially
say
about
another
necklaces.
thing,
It's like if
kind
you
of
can just
extending my
put your
answer
hand on that
and
necklace
and
over
what
your heart.
Laura
It's like
was
just
saying is
that
that, you know, this
vibration
this
is just like,
tendency to treat a symptom and
You in?
taking it as
Right.
just that
Chill,
and
cool,
separating
calm.
it from everything else that's going on in their life and what's gone on in their past and what happened to their ancestors and what's going on in the culture is just um it's childish at this point. And you know, it's time to put our big girl pants on and grow up a little bit and start to look at, you know, well, okay, why are they having that symptoms? What else is going on? Is it caused by something that happened 30 years ago that was never resolved in their system and has now built and built and built and is so off kilter that now there's this symptom over here that seems totally unrelated, but in fact if you dig a little deeper and you look at all of the pieces together, you'll find out what the root cause is. And then, you know, if you deal with the root cause, all of the other stuff, you know, the peripheral symptoms go away on their own, which you would never get if you just treated that symptom that was caused by their trajectory being off course for 30 years, and not actually
Just
part of
ask
the
them
real
if you
problem.
can't solve
So
the core symptom.
I just,
or
yeah.
problem.
Sometimes you can't. And that's just the thing.
Sometimes you
Okay,
can't. So
one
what
last
if you
thing
can?
is I feel
Is
like
that
it's really important to remember our voices when we're
Set.
in a situation with
You have
allopathic
to accept
medicine and
what
to
you cannot change.
remember it's okay to advocate for yourself and say when something feels good or doesn't feel good. And I definitely did that when I was in the hospital. And I remember that all the nurses, I was like the topic of the day in the hallways. They're like, this patient, you know. But I was like, this is really good for them. And they did honor me and everything that I said, and I was very clear. And when you have your voice, it's like they're kind of like, okay. And that is going to help ripple into those systems that it's okay for people to have a voice and a say in the structures that they're so used to, but it can be slowly broken down. Yes, Peter.
Can I add something to you now?
No.
Thank you. All right. So one of the stories, and one of the gifts of allopathic is the ability to measure and to pay attention and to do tests and all these things, and then to use that as a basis to see if things are actually healing on that dimension. And like Kim said, if it's true, it's true, and it's gonna show there. And we've had people use one of the resins from this plant to basically cure
Quick
skin
little
cancer.
info: she's
And
designed all
the
of these
biggest
herself,
dilemma was, what were they going to
and she
tell their
never
doctor?
replicates anything. Everything's one off,
How
and
did you do
everything's
that?
made out of natural stone,
And
no
that's
plastics or
kind of the
resins.
realms we're getting into now. It's like, what do you say when a miracle happens? At least a miracle to them. Because to other people, it's like, well, of course it does that because we know it does. But it's just using it in its strength and
They're so
making it part of the
sparkly.
team. So that's all I wanted to say.
You have a good day.
Okay. How are we doing on time? We're good? Okay. Let's lighten things up.
Sir,
Okay.
how are you?
What's one thing in your daily routine that is non-negotiable for your
She
personal
makes every
wellness?
she makes every one of these
Is that lighter?
handmade, all original. She never replicates. She likes to create new.
I can answer
She
this.
does a great job. She just made that brass bracelet one right there at the base there. Yep, she just made that in 20 minutes. Yep.
Do my meditation
Good for
and
circulation. That's bloodstone.
Yeah.
if I don't get it done in the morning, then it happens
A
before
little
go
bit
to
of
bed.
iron
I
kick.
can't get it done sometime during the day. But
Good day, sir.
miss that in the past. Um, you know, my immune system suffers and my mental health suffers. And I have a 9-year-old, almost 10-year-old child that I have to keep up with. So those are the non-negotiables. I need to stay hydrated and energized for my kiddo.
Uh, so my non-negotiable routine is that I don't need a routine. Um, I what's non-negotiable for me is to always check in with my body and say, well, what do I want? Do I want to sleep in? Do I want to hydrate today? Do I want to whatever feels right in the moment, whatever the Tao is presenting me with, and trusting my body. And this is what I tell all my clients when they say, oh, well, what should I do after the session? What can I do today? You know, what do you recommend? And I just say, feel like going for a walk, go for a walk. If you feel like taking a nap, take a nap. If you feel like running to the top of the mountain, fantastic. Like just do whatever feels good and like take the moment to really check in with my body with every new opportunity that presents itself as a quadruple Libra. This is how I make decisions because it can be really challenging because I'm taking everything into account. And the most important thing that I have found is what do I want to do? What makes my heart feel happier when I look at the options and I look at how I need to be today? Like what is nourishing to my heart? And that's all that matters. And I have found that this has been wildly successful for me and all of my clients that do this too. So yeah, that's my routine is to not have a routine, but to always do what my heart wants to do.
Honoring your needs. I like that, Arwen. That's my style. um, I can be similar, though I am trying to work on building a more disciplined space in my life as well. But I do think it's so important. Like, what brings you joy? What do you need that day, in that week, in that season? It can change through the seasons. And that's kind of how I'm navigating now, trying to look at, like, yeah, I'm not just a separate person like me. I'm me in this location, in this season. What do I need?
Morning.
What do I want to practice right now? So oftentimes, well, my non-negotiable is definitely like looking in my son's eyes and telling him I love him. I think that's a really important piece of health connection. Um, Oftentimes it has to do with lighting an incense and greeting the spirits, greeting the land, saying good morning, saying thank you. Um, on really good days, I'm singing songs on my front porch to the sun. Again, these are things that I think really have an incredible health benefit and just a benefit to back to the me, my environment, and the collective field. Of course, hydration and all those good things, but also I'll bring in probably almost every day making a little plate for my ancestors because I don't think it's symbolic. Like when we feed the spirits, I think like we feed the spirits and they feed us. It's feeding the whole field. And I think that can go a really, really long way ancestrally or some being out in nature that we feel connected to. I really had a significant experience when I was just starting to make offerings where I think just like the veils thinned a little and I was allowed to glimpse, like I made this offering and I could feel literally the invisible field like suck it up. I've never experienced that again. That was like a gift to be able to perceive that, but I'll never forget it. And I'll never forget how far offerings go.
I think checking in with your heart, Arwen, is an amazing thing. And also saying hello or good morning. Um, what I do every day is a practice where I'm saying hello to the space and the life force and the field. And I do practices that support that. I happen to do the Tibetan life force yoga is called Salon. And a number of us do that here. And I think you can also gain that by Qigong and Tai Chi, provided you're doing it effectively. And that has changed my life. One quick story about that is when I learned them in 2000, I went from only learning from about plants, effectively from people and books, to them communicating with me directly by doing those yogas. And that's kind of a crazy thing that I put together. And since we're in Crestone, which is where it happened, here's a little story. I was skiing at Monarch, and it was a big powder day. And when it's a big powder day, you don't come in. And at that point, we didn't wear helmets. So I was wearing a hat. Now, the hat was a little small for me. They kept riding up on me, but we never came in all day. And so that means, and it was a cold snow, it wasn't warm. And so I telemark, and it was the best day ever, right? So I get back, and I'm in town, or I'm back at my house. I'm going, why are my ears itching, right? Why are my ears itching? I look at the mirror. I look at the mirror. It's like, oh, they're kind of white, but they're okay. But why are they itching? I can't feel them. That's not good. So I go downtown to the hardware store, and someone sees me, and they go, so why are your ears black? Like, my ears are black. I've been checking. How come I don't know? And I look in the mirror in my truck, and it's like, my ears are black. She's going, you're having a cold weather emergency, and you need help right now. And so in my head, I'm going, what am I going to do, right?
Sit down.
And I go, what? And all of a sudden, the plants respond. And the pinyon and the juniper got together, and they told me exactly what to do. I went home and did it.
Definitely.
And had to do the resin and the oils. And within 2.5 days, the black's gone and all the feeling's back. So that's just when we really tune in, we're in a place where things are available. It's so potent here if we can just find the gateway. And sometimes it's so much we just like, it's too much. But when it's the right time and the right question, and our practices have helped us open and stabilize, miracles happen. And here's Kim, because I know she has many stories like that.
I'll try not to tell too many. For me, it would be trust. And it kind of plays into the fact that we're not alone in the journey. Um, and I say that in a divine way because that's my level of commitment. And I'm sure the people here as well, and many of you, but I mean, I have to remind myself that there's enough time and it's divine timing and all the things that I might be being called to do at any time, that there'll be enough energy for that if I'm just listening and present. And so, of course, that plays into my practices, which I share with probably many people up here, with Qigong and Salong and working with life force, and all those things are greatly important. But sometimes, like Arwen said, I'm not going to do it. I might just go sit out on the patio at the retreat center and just listen to the birds for 5 minutes because that's all I have, right? And that's enough. So that's what's important to me.
Has everyone done? Thank you. I loved all those answers, and I've always having like a daily practice has been something I've been struggling with in my life as like kind of on the younger, more chaotic end of life. I feel like I'm stepping into more of that
There you
time
go.
where I feel like I want more structure in my day to day.
Browsing around.
Oh,
And
yeah, yeah.
I've
You know,
always
just
admired people who are like,
Understandable.
I wake up and I meditate, and if I don't get
You
it
see
done,
this
get it
background?
done
She's
before the
made
end of
every
the
one of
day.
these
And I'm just
herself.
like,
They're all
I want to
natural.
be
And
like,
there's no resins.
but I'm a
And
Pisces
they're
and
all
I'm
one
not,
off. Never
and I'm
replicated.
usually a mess. But
Exactly.
one and
one
only.
One and
my
only.
been doing for a while now, and I feel has really improved my health, is requiring myself to have a very nourishing meal at least once a day. Like, just for me, it's usually local meat or liver and vegetables and broth and something just really nourishing, or my chicken eggs, something hearty, and that gives me the sustenance for my day to get done what I need to get done, to allow myself to be calm enough to trust that I have enough time to do everything that I need to do, and be well fed enough to get it done.
Yeah, she just did
So,
the
yeah,
brass one over there
food,
this morning.
that's
She
my
just finished that one.
non-negotiable.
The one at the
Wow.
base right there. Is it?
Wait,
No, it's copper. I keep saying
Should we wrap it up?
brass.
Open up questions?
Right there by the bracelets.
Oh, this
Yeah,
one.
yeah. She just did that one this morning.
Maybe one. Does anybody in the crowd have a question for us, or anybody on this stage? Anyone? Okay, great. Do you have a question?
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. You have a good day. People are still watching this.
So while we're waiting for the question to be translated, my band will be playing, at least part of the band will be playing at 4 o'clock at the Wellness Village. Oh yeah, I'm promoting myself, Kim. But the reason I'm doing it, not just for my band, because who knows what we'll play, whether it's going to be a tree or a rock or whatever. But that's not the point. Today we're going to we're going to feed one of the trees down there and invite it to be supportive of healing. We're finding that when we feed the trees, they become supportive in the healing process, and we're going to trigger it and create a little healing forest with the mother tree food and 528 hertz. And so it has been really helping people. So I'll be down there. I'm not sure what will happen, but you're all invited.
Thanks, Peter. Okay, Roberta had a really great question, and I'm sorry if I don't say it exactly as you worded it, but I'll say it in my words. She said there's a motto that is physician,
Look, because you're
heal,
not supposed to
okay,
be
I'm not
you're not
gonna,
even looking.
but heal thyself. In your practices, how much do you feel the reflection of your patient
Good here.
healing?
I could
you?
literally freeze frame and use you the stat image.
100,000,000%. That is one of the ones. I'm not trying to promo naturopathic doctors in any way, but many years ago, when I was in the beginning of the profession, they were trying to come up with the tenets for naturopathic doctors, and there was really good intention with this. And that's a tricky thing to do. It's like herding cats, as we say, because naturopathic doctors do all kinds of things, and they don't want to be herded like Crestone. We don't want to be herded into you Jesus do this or that. And one of them is docere, doctor is teacher, and one of them is, you just said. And so I would just say that how can you not look at everyone who walks in the door as a lesson, even a lesson for me to say, do I want to do this with this person? I have that choice too, right? And it's not that that's been a problem, but it's just honoring that I don't have to fix or heal everyone. I know that they're doing it themselves. I'm not taking that away from them. But I also have a choice to say, is this in divine province for me? How am I integrating with this? I'm here, I'm present. What is my role in that? And I've had people come, and Crestone's an interesting place, and spend an hour just telling me what they're doing and why they're doing it. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and this is why I take that, and this is why I do that. And in those moments, it's like, okay, Kim, what is your place here? To listen. Person needs to be heard. And then also I turned to them in one situation and said, would you like my opinion on what you're doing and taking? And the person just kind of sat back, like kind of amazed. And they're like, well, I had to think about it.
I've made this one while at Crestone.
We're doing a live
For my opinion, but the healing was them
There's
being
one over
heard.
there I can't reach. So
Is what I
you'll have to
learned
figure out
from
the
that.
one.
And then they're like, yeah, actually, I would like that.
Those are the ones I
So,
made so
okay,
far. Let me go
let's
get
talk
the
about this a little bit together, right? So it's always that experience, and I came to
This is the
Crestone
other one?
full time a few years ago, and I was in retreat for 3.5 years.
So 3 pieces so
Not
far made at
complete
Crestone.
every day, but
Or no, I
all
made a
the time.
reading.
You made a ring
And I
I made
yesterday.
took
a
on a
ring
medicine Buddha
yesterday.
vow to
That's good.
take on healing and transmute that for
Obsidian
people, and that's a great
and sterling
responsibility.
silver.
Um, and I don't always know what's coming in my door.
Can you see that?
I don't know what my
Yeah, you can. It
place
looks really
is
good.
with that moment. So just being present, and it's a constant
God,
teaching
this is a live feed. I
to
need a
learn
live.
what
Like,
I
I need to
need
get a live.
also in the process of being part of it.
This is
So
beautiful.
thank you.
I've noticed in my practice that
So 4 pieces here at Crestone.
attract the same types of
Simple stretchy bracelet, pearl and gold.
issues that people are going through based on my own vibration. So, yes, the sessions that I enter into with people are just as much healing for me, if not more.
I said thank you for sharing.
Welcome.
Because I'm attracting things that I'm working on, and people are coming in to facilitate healing for those exact same things. I noticed about 8 or 9 years ago, I kept getting a theme of the day. People would come into my practice for massage or energy work, and they would talk about the same exact thing while they're on my table or in my session room. And
I'll get a steady can.
some person would come in with a hurt shoulder, and they would equate that to some trauma that happened to them when they were a child. And somehow it would tie into whatever I was working on internally at the time. So I would say absolutely.
Please
I
check out my
get just as
website and
much
don't
healing
feel
that
scared to
my
order
clients do.
online.
Beautiful. Um, I feel like we it's helpful to change out the word heal because it's not necessarily like broken healed continuum. Um, I it's actually been coming up for me this week a lot. This thinking, it's not like we're just these bodies, these hunks of meat, and then you go in and sew it up and it's done. It's like we're instruments. We're instruments trying to play our best song, and we're constantly needing tuning, being tuned, falling out of tune. So when it comes to working with someone, it's a tuning, and I think the greatest ideal is to come like into this coherence, and it's not one person doing it to the other. Like when you truly meet in that field with that intention, and it's right in that moment, a coherence comes in. So it affects both of you, or all of you, or even all of us in this moment together, sitting here. So I definitely am grateful to receive
Yes.
beautiful healing coherence benefits from people I work with, and it's beautiful.
And I think it depends on the level of engagement. Some people will come into an office and they're just kind of like more in the conceptual realm. They just kind of like, oh, of course you do this, and they're not really engaged. And we compare that to what we're talking about here, where we're actually maybe sharing a field and we're working on it ourselves. And so here's an example. When we go up high and I guide here, and people get altitude sickness, what we found is that use of the life force yoga, Tibetan Pasalam, we will put someone who has altitude sickness in the middle of a number of us doing. And what happens is each of the yogas is relative to one of the elements, earth, water, fire, air, and space. And we're basically building a field so that they can remember how to do it themselves. And it's the craziest thing because it works. And, being a guide and knowing the Western approach, meaning come down, make sure you've got plenty of water and food. If you're looking at that or helping someone get back to normal quickly, instead of having to evacuate them, if you all know, to search and take someone out of the mountains takes about 14 people. And it's far better to get them back on their feet if you can, in a non-invasive way, using this. And so it's something that we want to start sharing more and more and more because it's having real effects. And as we do it for them, we're also doing it for ourselves, which is the point.
So the statement, healer, heal thyself, I think what it really stems from is someone asking, can you hold my trauma? Are you able to stand in the turbulence of what I'm going through and help me? Like, really? It's a question, like, can you do it? And I think it's an important question. And what I tell a lot of other practitioners who come to me for craniosacral sessions, and they kind of have a little bit of shame around their own wounds and how much wounding they have been having to grapple with in their life, is I tell them that no one ever became a healer because they had an easy life. In the old world, children who had a very hard birth, a near-death experience at a very young age, were the ones who were set apart to be the healers. Because when we go through challenges and we find the medicine inside ourselves or outside of ourselves, we are then able to share that medicine with others around us. And
just as a for instance, but that would be something.
there's really, like I said, healing is a lifelong journey. And when we find medicine and we share it with others, their discovery of that gives us more clues to deepen our own healing. And really, as practitioners, we are doing it for ourselves. Being in service and helping other people is wildly healing. And it's just kind of like this crazy world and the dichotomy of this world that, being really humble and being in service is the most self-serving thing that you ever could do.
Definitely, it's running
Um,
4K, so that's good.
So I think that's all.
Lovely. Are we really done on time, Kim?
I'm gonna run over the story.
We're good. I'll keep mine short and sweet. At that,
Oh,
I
no,
would say the most healing I've ever received in my life have been my years in which I've been in my shop and waiting for each and every mirror to walk in and reflect back to me exactly what I need to do and work on myself. 'Cause I'm like, wow, I need that. I need that too. All right, let's go do it. All right,
Thank you.
we're done. I'd say. Thank you guys so much. That was so fun. That was a juicy one.
Thank you to the wellness panel and Laura for moderating. And thank you guys for all being part of that energetically and present. And I see the sun is coming out. It's a little nippy here on the stage. I think I was a little shaky, but the sun is coming out now. So so just continues on. We have another panel coming up or another talk coming up with Owners Builders Unite at the top of the hour here on the main stage. And that's Owner Builders Unite's a group of local alternative natural builders, and they're going to be discussing building, sharing secrets and information about natural building. So please stick around for that. Also, just an update, you have just a couple more minutes to go get some pancakes. They're going to be doing that till about noon. Okay, so not too much longer to support Succeed over at the vendor food area by Cloud Stage. And we like to support Succeed with their community outreach, and they are our fiscal sponsor here at Energy Fair. So we appreciate them very much and want to support that. On some of the other stages, at noon, the art installation team, so this is coming up down at Cloud Stage, they're going to be talking about reimagining homes and commons, which has been the theme. So if you'd like to do more discussion about that at Cloud Stage at noon. And also, Birthrights is starting about now with Alicia Chambers down at the Wellness Village. And after that, Sacred Room Healing. And our demos looks like we're in the middle of building with stone, I believe, down at the demos, which is out towards the main road just past the free box. Okay. So please stick around for our Owners Builders Unite group coming up soon. Thank you. Also, we want to thank everyone for contributing and volunteering. We couldn't do this event without you. And it's really important to remember that we want to keep this a free event. It has been one, and we want to continue to be able to provide that for people. So, what does that mean? Our very old but sacred little donation box is here. So, anyone who wants to contribute, you can also make contributions virtually on Venmo, and our Energy Fair booth, where our volunteer booth is, sort of at the entrance to the park. You can get more information about volunteering in the future. Here at Energy Fair, we actually start our meetings for the next year right after this one. And what we do is we do surveys. We want to see what people want, what they like, in the community, how people felt about the event. So we do take that seriously. How you're feeling about the venue. We can't control everything, but we certainly want it to be a community event in that way. And so we get together and we do a post-event review on how it went, and then kind of where we're going to be going next year with that. But we always need volunteers. We've got some really great people. I know when we do our closing around 6 tonight, and we will be doing music after that. So we'll have the taiko drummers here and some other things, but we will be talking about, the coordinators will come up and give thanks to volunteers, and you'll hear all that stuff. But we want to encourage people to be part of this because we can't do it if we're not a community. So thank you so much for that. Please visit our vendors, the food vendors or other vendors in the park. If you haven't made it down to Wellness Village, we've got people doing treatments and healings down there, and there are talks going on. So we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Showed up pieces that I made while sitting. So, yeah. Yeah, we're making a few bucks. Making a table, so that's hotel cost and gas cost.
1 to 10.
And I owe Alec, a tent and tarp. Stuff. No, what's the businesses? It's the businesses, and what's ours has to pay. So I spent it out of his check. That's why I owe him. I spent my check. So that's how. That's because I just made it's just several business roll around. buy the things I need and go to my apartment. That, I mean, this entire time, I've been putting $300-400 a year.
Chill.
It's good. They're liking it. I know it's how prices have to be. It's not hot jewelry as much as it's money.
Hey, welcome back. It happened fast. It's just flowing along here up at the main stage. Please welcome Owner Builders Unite, Matt Evers and Pete Van Horn. They're going to be talking and engaging you. Owner Builders Unite are a group of local, alternative, and natural builders learning and discussing local building in Crestone. They promote, support, and share natural and alternative building techniques. And they want to open this discussion up for your questions and your interaction. So they're going to be going around and engaging people. So get your ideas together, get your questions together, and be part of this discussion with Owner Builders Unite. So please welcome Matt and Pete Van Horn.
Yeah, so it's 2 days. We'll be heading back tonight.
Who's going? Thanks, Kim. Thank you, Kim. He does. All right. So thanks everybody for coming out. The Energy Fair is always great to be at. And yeah, me and Matt are going to be doing a talk today, like Kim was just saying. We're both owner builders. We've both been here for about 7 years, and we built Earthship houses here down in the Grants. And more or less, we're just going to talk briefly a little bit about our experience of doing everything out of pocket and taking a number of years to get it done and final, but all the steps of what you kind of have to do if you're planning on doing something like this sooner than later, especially with all the building code stuff potentially changing in the years to come. And then we're going to open it up to some questions later on, and feel free to ask, a question specifically if it's something that's relevant at the time. So, Matt,
Yeah, a little bit about myself. I'm Matt Evers. Started an excavation company here, Everstone Excavation in Seb. And yeah, Goldie, my partner and I, we built an Earthship in the Baca and the Grants. And yeah, Pete and I do the YouTube channel, and we're just trying to, support our alternative builds, support our alternative building culture here, and keep it going for as long as we can. We're really just in it for networking people. If you got a certain build you're concerned about or questions, if we don't have the answers, we'll try and connect you with people who do and people who have experience in that field of building. Also, loopholes and just trying to figure out your build and being compliant with the POA and the county building codes and all that. And, I think working in harmony with the POA is something that we can accomplish. And I think that's something that we should strive to do and just be in coexistence with them. Have them maybe work for us someday and help us out, and we can do the same for them.
Yeah. And to add on kind of to what Matt was just saying right there, we both started our builds. We're neighbors. We live about 3 houses down the road from each other, down in the Grants. And we both built Earthship houses, which is made out of tires. It's a little bit alternative, obviously. So it fits in for Swatch County with not having building codes. So it's really, truly a pocket of freedom still to build a lot of these things like Earthships, straw bales, scria bag houses. We have a lot of friends and networks of neighbors that are doing stuff. But we originally met each other in 2017 or so when we pulled our permits in the springtime. I think it was May of 2017, and we started our process together. So it was really good to have a community member and a neighbor doing the same thing that you were doing, because lots of times, we're doing his tires. Okay, next weekend we're doing my tires. If we're doing my roof this weekend, next weekend we work on his roof. So it's a really great way, just like the Energy Fair, to collaborate and network with people that are interested in different things, alternative things. And both me and Matt, we never had any sort of real construction background. I never owned a drill or a hammer before I went to Earthship Biotecture. So kind of buying land and securing land and then kind of getting started was intimidating. So to have someone or other groups of people that have been here 5, 10 years before you that kind of guide you and help you out with certain steps is really crucial to your success. Because if we were to do this in the middle of nowhere, say Alaska, where you're 2 hours away from a community of people that are also, hey, can you help do the roof this weekend? It's so hard to do when you're just doing everything by yourself. So an owner builder, I would argue, you don't necessarily do everything yourself, but you kind of are your own general contractor. So just like someone that might build a house with a contractor, the contractor is kind of managing things, electrician, subcontracts for plumbing, things like that, cement subcontract maybe. You're kind of juggling that act and wearing that hat as your GC as the owner builder. So you might not do everything and you might need guidance on certain things that are specific, like how we have electrical code and plumbing code. But that's where you network and get people involved that can help you.
Yeah, and I got to cheat off Pete's plumbing too. I'd go over there. He got his plumbing inspection done before me, and I'd be like, "What did he say? What do we got to do?" I like to say that DIY doesn't mean to do it all by yourself. I think it takes a community to help you, and I think it's just makes everything easier. I think that two people can get a job done more than twice as fast as one. And yeah,
Yeah, and that's a good thing Matt just said about the inspection. So just to preface, I know a lot of people know about Saguache County and us obviously being a pocket of freedom with still no building codes, but you do still have plumbing codes, state plumbing codes that you have to pass with DORA, which is Department of Regulatory Agencies. And there's certain signs of your plumbing that you have to get signed off on. And there's also state electrical inspections for Saguache County. So you do have to actually have a state inspector come look at the electrical and make sure everything's at code, everything's 6 feet receptacles from door, 12-foot runs for receptacles after that. So there's a little bit of a learning curve, and still you can build the code in the sense of electrical and plumbing, but still build alternative. So they weren't looking at our tires. There's nobody coming out and saying, oh, that tire can structurally hold this much PSI or whatever, but it would be one of those things where plumbing and electrical, you still have to kind of have that relationship with the state inspector. But those permits are pretty cheap. You can pull a permit as an owner builder if you buy a piece of land for lots of pieces of land here down in the grants are, I don't know, starting at 12, 13 grand on up. If you buy a piece of land for 12 grand and you pull a permit, the DORA permit for plumbing and electric, it's only a couple $100. And especially if you say, hey, I'm going to do the work as a homeowner, you pull it, maybe you have a neighbor or a friend that has done that before, help you out or show you, hey, this is what the inspector wants to see. And then it's a little bit easier to get into.
yeah. And if I have any word of advice for any of the inspections, it's be there with the inspector for every inspection. So it's interactive. Don't just like leave the house and expect the guy to pass you. Like be there, be interactive, be friendly, roll with the punches. It might not pass you every time. I think I failed one, and it was just a simple. And if I wasn't there, I would have been confused. They're giving us information. I mean, they're not. Donovan said it earlier. I don't know if he's here today, but he said they're not contractors, but they will help us along the way. Even gray water is illegal. We can do that here in Colorado. We can harvest rain catchment. Should I go into this right now? Probably not, but we'll go into that in a minute. But yeah, just be there with the inspectors and be interactive and ask your neighbors, ask your friends. Nelium, my buddy is a plumber. He helped me out. I recommend him for anything. Great plethora of knowledge.
And there's also on the permit side of it, speaking of kind of the steps you have to do. So say you secure land, say you buy land through a realtor, right? That realtor usually it comes with what's called a warranty deed, right? So you can build on it right away. There's things and loopholes of getting land. So if you're thinking about wanting to build and acquire a cheap piece of land, when I bought my land back in 2015, it was $2,700 for 1.63 acres here down in the Grants. Nowadays, it's 4 times higher, 5 times higher. You'll see plots that are 15 grand, 16 grand, and that's on the low end of the Baca. So prices are going up. But Saguache County, on their website, there's a thing called the Saguache County owned lot list. So they publish this once a year. And a lot of people here and neighbors and friends have taken advantage of this. But it's more or less back tax lots that get assessed or taken back from Saguache County Treasurer. and you can make minimum bids. And the grand sits starting at $4,000 a lot. In the chalets, it's $5,000 a lot. I think Casita Park, I think the minimum $1,700 a lot. You can look, yeah. So you can get into a lot for a lot more affordable price, but what they do is give you what's called a quick claim deed. So the quick claim deed is something you have to eventually transfer into a clear title for another $1,000 for, again, half the price of what you might spend with a realtor. You, in a little bit of time and effort, you can have land for half the price. So that's a big thing to get, is just the land first.
And our goal for promoting this is to fill up these lots with owner builders and people who want to build cool things and not pulling modulars. And no shame if you live in a modular. It's just we want to promote the alternative scene here and keep it enriched and alive and trying new things. And I think that's why we all kind of love Crestone.
Yeah, and after you get the land, the thing, if you live in the POA and the BACA, what you have to do is you have to pull that said plumbing permit with the state, that said electrical permit with the state. You have to pull a septic permit with the county, a non-water wastewater treatment that they were talking about yesterday. And then also you have to pull a construction permit with the county. Here's Nick.
Here's Nick, our favorite realtor.
He's cutting in.
Hi, I'm Nick Navarez with Mountainside Realty. I just wanted to make a quick addendum to what you mentioned regarding the quitclaim deeds. You know, that is an option. You can either get a treasurer deed or a quitclaim deed from the county. However, it is really important that you find out what potential liens are against the property prior to owning it, right? Because there can be the block of water and sanitation, there can be taxes. And so I run into a situation before where while you can go ahead and get those properties, and oftentimes it's 7 to 9 years, you have to wait if you want to build on it, or get what's called a quiet title action, which expunges the prior ownership's claim on it. However, it does not expunge the prior liens against the property. So those would still have to be paid. And oftentimes, especially if you're going to go try and sell them again, that can be really expensive. So it's just something to be considerate about. You know, I think a lot of us here are familiar with that process. And if anyone ever wants to know more, I'm always happy to answer questions. All right, thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
But yeah, that's very important what he said. There is a little bit of time and effort that you have to do if you were to get a piece of land for cheap and know all the background of things you might have to catch up with payment wise. But keep on going with the BACA and the POA at least, because that's the majority of where people live and build alternatively out here, is you have to have the septic tank, and then you also have to pull a construction permit with Saguache County. And you have to pull a permit with the POA, which I believe is $500, and then also give them a series of deposit money, which you get back in stages of your build over your entirety. So if it takes you 4 years to build, you'll eventually get your deposit money back out at 4 years. Right? So that's a couple $1,000. So it is worth it to consider if you're doing everything out of pocket on a budget and you're not taking out financing or mortgage like how me and Matt did it. If you're putting every $800 you have extra a month into your build, it's going to take longer. And there are things like, again, deposits and fees and stuff you have to pay up front. So if you can have a little bit of money and a little bit of cash flow to start, that's the best thing to get it
right
going,
over there
because
on
it
the
will go
base.
fast after you start adding
Yep,
up all your
yep,
costs.
yep,
Even
she
if you're
just did that one.
using repurposed
Yep, that one right
materials
there.
like
Yep.
pulling windows out of the Buena Vista Restore. I think every one of my windows I got indoors for like under $150 except for one. You know, and that was 10, 15 windows.
You
Where if
know,
bought
that's how it
new
always
windows, that would be
goes.
thousands and thousands of dollars going to a big place.
We have videos on this stuff. There's a lot of information right now. You know, we make videos on this on our YouTube channel, Owner Builders Unite, and it would help us if you guys subscribe to our channel. That'd help. I'm probably gonna say that again at the end, just to change people know.
But Matt's right. Yeah, we got a lot of videos and information and content, very similar to how the Energy Fair has workshops and demos and home tours. We have a lot of that stuff that overlaps what the Energy Fair does, because we love everybody that's involved with Energy Fair. got a lot of stuff with Energy Fair, whether it's demos or panels or home tour stuff over the years.
I feel better being here though.
So
than I
yeah,
felt
if you like
being
today
home.
and you like yesterday, check out our channel, check out the Energy Fair's YouTube channel, because it's throughout the year more and more of
But then
this
I'm
stuff that
sleeping
you
up
can
by
do.
that
That's not
creek.
just the 2
Oh
days.
yeah, so you have that water and you have a little bit
Yeah.
drowning
Yeah, we
out.
got videos on
We get hit with
rainwater
solar flares
catchments
both
that
me and
Pete
her.
does.
It's
Pete's the
just
brains
throughout the
behind a
whole
lot of this
day.
stuff. He does a
Yeah.
lot of work,
I've just been
and
so jacked up
he does
for
the
weeks.
editing
It's
of the
like any
videos.
little bit of
And
different. And then I was
yeah, we
doing
have
the
videos
dowel
on the
thing, this
updates on our
woman over
county
here, she does
codes
these
that
dowels
recently
on her back.
changed. And
Oh my god, they're
I want to
helping
thank all
so much.
panels.
Those
I have to go
muscles.
find a stick.
Yeah.
What's
And
that
there's
panel
4
called?
us before I leave. So
The
I can take
mindful
it with
land
me.
use group
Yeah.
pretty much helped us not have codes in Saguache County, and I think they just a round of applause for that. That's keeping the dream alive for a lot of us. We did a video on that. We do Energy Fair promotional videos. We even do like weird truck build videos. And so if you guys out there know of a house that we can go tour, or you got a good idea for our channel and you want to do maybe a demonstration video or tour your cool house, reach out
That's a
to
good
us, let
thing.
us know. We're in cahoots with the concrete guru over here who's just rolling into the park. Eric, he's helping out a lot and inspiration to us on YouTube and promoting us here and there, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, so again, the YouTube channel just kind of is an umbrella for all these things that are kind of happening today. And it's throughout the year. We usually release a video about 2 or 3 a month. And it's just something where, again, if you want to learn a little bit more about cob, or a little bit more about rammed earth, or a little bit about bottle glass, or botanical cells for earthships, we have videos and content and stuff like that. Speaking of earthship specific things, but also Colorado, just to sidetrack a little bit, is water. So water is life, as we all know it. All the lots here in the Baca, the chalet lots, you're hooked up to Baca water and sand. So you're more or less paying a water bill every month. Down in the Grants, you have a well permit, right? And most people in the Grants are hooked up to a well. And septic, wastewater treatment, right? So one thing that very few people, even people that have been here for a long, long time that I run across, don't know about, and even the POA to a certain extent, is a number of years ago in 2016 or 15, I think it was, the state of Colorado changed things legally with rainwater harvesting. So for a long time in Colorado, you couldn't capture or use any bit of your rainwater. I want to say it was about 8 years ago, the state changed things, and you can technically use 110 gallons, 255-gallon rain drums, collect rainwater for, say, a garden. Say you got some tomato plants or whatever you're growing, you can water that little garden with 110 gallons. If anybody gardens, 110 gallons goes really, really quick. And it's within days, it might be out in 10 days, right? You might be like, oh shoot, I'm out of my water. The thing about it is if we don't have rain, although it rained epically the day or two before the Energy Fair, and we got a lot of rain, which was great, and I probably caught 200 gallons just in the front cistern, you can apply for a permit with the state of Colorado, Division of Water Resources, called a GWS 78 rooftop precipitation permit. The only people that can qualify this is if you are technically off grid. So if you're in the chalets where you have the capability of hooked up to Baca water and sand or wastewater treatment or whatnot, you cannot qualify for this permit. But if you have property down in the Grants where you can qualify for a well permit, then you can qualify for this permit, and it's free. And what this permit does is let you collect any sort of precipitation, so rainfall and snow, obviously. Snow will melt into precipitation, right? And you can capture unlimited amount of rainwater for household use. So still, you're not really supposed to use that water for irrigation, things like that, unless you have a 35-acre parcel, and then you have 1 acre worth of irrigation rights. But you can use all of that water like traditionally Earthship has in Taos, New Mexico, to wash your dishes with, to flush your toilet with, for drinking water. So that's something that a lot of people, again, you might have a well permit. If you have a well permit, apply for this permit because it's free. It's Department of Water Resources. It's no different than how you apply for a well permit. It's just a specific application that you fill out and you get it back from the state engineer, and it's stamped and certified for you. And again, I have 2,000 gallons worth of water capacity that I store and I use. And I do not have a well. I repeat, I do not have a well, and I have finaled with the POA without having a well.
I advise applying online because I mailed mine in and they never got back to me.
Kim,
Here comes Kim.
question.
Oh yeah.
So is that for the property or is the permit follow the person?
Permit follows the property.
Okay, good.
So
Like a well permit. would.
Like a well permit follows the
Awesome.
property. So if you transfer that property, say I sold my Earthship and build another one and someone else has it, then they have that permit for rainwater harvesting because it's all set up. The infrastructure is already there. And again, state final plumbing inspection, state inspector didn't ask a thing because it's not his jurisdiction. It's mandated. And a lot of people here in the Baca don't know about that. So if you're absolutely interested in capturing rainwater, buy a 2,000-gallon cistern, get it buried, have it for emergency purposes, even if you have a well, but you can get it for free.
I think that's a lot of information. We're going to open it up to some questions. I think Mr. Rowe has a question. You in the microphone. I'll come to you.
When I was the POA for the paper, it came to light that nobody needs a well. You can haul water if that's what you choose to do, and it's nothing in the covenants that says you can't. Now, both Saguache County and the POA insist that you're going to have a leach field and septic tank, which is unfortunate. But first of all, is that true? My B question is, I heard Saguache County is floating out the idea of making composting toilets legal. You guys know anything about that?
Yes, thank you, John. John's a neighbor down the road. Appreciate you. Yeah, so the first part of it is it is true, the first part of the statement. So when I filed my initial permits in 2017, there was a guy by the name of Charlie who was in charge of the EAC for the POA. It's kind of a committee that you submit drawings to, even though there's no code. They just approve kind of your sketch and your drawings and square footage and things like that, R values. And he told me, and I have an email still from him, and unfortunately he passed away a couple years ago. But you can absolutely do that. There's no jurisdiction of someone coming off. Like, again, I finaled with the state plumbing inspector with this system, and it's a state certified engineer that says, hey, you can capture an unlimited amount of rainwater. So yes, you can. And then to the human manure question, they covered it a little bit yesterday, John, on the building panel, but for everybody that didn't hear it, Lisa was talking a lot about it. Technically, you are allowed to have a human manure system or a composting toilet system, rather, incinerating toilet system, rather, but you have to have a septic tank as well. So it is unfortunate in the sense where you have to spend thousands of dollars if you don't even plan on using it, but in theory, you need to get that at least right now until maybe things change, but you can also have a human manure system after the fact. So,
And even in Saguache County, you don't need any certifications to install your own septic. So if you guys want to DIY it, you can.
And I will say this on the septic tanks, just to give people ideas of prices and stuff. I had mine done years ago, and Matt did too. I know things come up in cost, but Matt actually installs them, so he kind of has an idea of how much things cost still. Engineered systems, like they make you go to a architectural firm and engineering for, and you have to get drawings of the system, and you have to have a perk test or a soil evaluation test nowadays. And before it gets installed, and then the county inspector comes off and takes a picture and says, "Yay, that's great." But the thing about it was, I know I used a place in Salida called Mountain Engineering. Our friend Tony Canada.
He's the new county inspector, and he's the he can
three
do
of the
plans
four.
too. Tony
Yeah.
Canada over
Tony
there.
Canada over there with straw bales off grid.
Talking septic, folks.
Yep. But again, he can draw up your plans. And when I got my plans drawn up so many years ago, engineered plans, they were like $1,000. So I know some people, obviously, depending on your system, maybe it's more, maybe it's $10,000, maybe it's $7,000. But between my installation of my septic and the drawings, I was under $7,000.
It's more up like 10 nowadays.
And it might be more like 10,
Prices
and that's inflation, but still, for about 10 grand, you can have a septic system.
Anybody have any questions on that topic? If not, we can move on to our homes. Cool. So we're just gonna kind of go over, Pete and I we each built our own house. Goldie is my partner and mine, and Pete did this by himself out of pocket because it's a little smaller. Ours is bigger. In pretty much just the cost of just information is just it took us like about 5 years to build ours, or four, on and off here and there, and we're in our build with the property and the well and the septic, living in the house at about $110,000 on our Earthship. About, you know, over 1,000 square feet, 1,500.
And I'm probably, yeah, my airship, it's 900 square foot. So one thing I suggest to new folks that are building, and I have friends that are in and out of town that are thinking about building, various people that bought land here and getting excited about it. 900 square foot is the minimum what the POA makes you build in the grants and in chalets. I think Casita Park, actually, it used to be, I still think it is, it used to only be 720 for Casita Park. It might still be that, but I know 900 for the grants and the chalets. But yeah, long story short, I think it took me about a little over 4 years to final with the POA, and I'm probably about 70, maybe 80,000 into it. But I did everything out of pocket. You know, it's like every extra $500, $600, $700 I had a month, I would put away, and that would buy cement, that would buy wood, that would buy windows. So every bit you save and sacrifice over a period of time that you're doing it, because it's going to take you a number of years if you're doing everything that way. And one thing that you want to think about, especially in the Baca, is you have a time frame. Your initial building permit's only 18 months, a year and a half with the POA. After that, you have to apply for a 6-month extension every 6 months. And the unfortunate thing is the extensions double in price every 6 months. So if you have a $35 extension fee, $35 is no big deal for 35 for 6 months, but then it doubles to 70 the next 6 months, then it doubles to 140, then it doubles to 280, and it doubles 560, then 11 or 1200, you know, so it just keeps on going. So if you take 8, 10 years, 9, 10 years to build, those extension fees can bite into your budget. And it's kind of a bummer to have to cut a check for over $1,000, $2,000 just to work another 6 months on your build. But the trick on that is after you get what's called exterior completion, which is more or less being dried in and kind of having your house all zipped up on the outside and done looking on the outside, it resets again. So say you're like how I did it, I was probably 2.5 years into it until I got exterior completion, got the stucco on the house, got the windows on the house, the outside looked done. But that $1,000 bill for my next extension turned back into $35. So there's kind of ways of doing it where you don't have to pay all those fees and extensions, but they do add up. So
Pound those tires fast, folks.
Yeah. How you doing, man?
And one thing too, real quick, just about pounding tires, since we both did Earthships, and this can apply for any sort of build, scria bag, straw build, but get in with the community, get in with people that have done this before. Have work parties. I mean, both Matt and Goldie's house, my house, a lot of other neighbors that have succeeded or are still in the process of building out here. Invite, 5, 10 neighbors over and feed them for a Saturday.
You'd be surprised what people will do for food in a couple of beers or sodas.
Yeah, because it's one of those things where not only are you getting experience, I know a gentleman asked yesterday on the building panel, how can we get the youth involved? How can we get people that want to learn this to kind of learn a trade, if you will, a unique trade like straw building or Earthship building or whatever, to get into it? We'll go to a workshop, volunteer your time.
Create a kid-friendly environment and bring the kids. And,
yeah.
The kids can help too. They have fun.
Yeah. Kim has a question here. Question.
Well, I was just asking on your YouTube channel and what you guys are doing, do you have like a community board or something where people could be posting some of that so that you could, where of course the education series is awesome that we've, started with Goldie and everything, so people can come outside of the energy fair and partake. And I know I've been part of these as well. Individual people who may have experience or having a workshop on their own, and we want to support that. But it might not, I don't know if you guys are doing a community board or something like that on there. You are?
Pretty much our community board is our comment section is what we do, and then like we just promote a video. We promote a workshop or something, and comment section is kind of But no, we don't. Do we
That's a
have,
good. No, I
Facebook
like what
posts or
Kim.
anything?
Yeah, I like what Kim's saying. I mean, we do use the throughout the energy fair and kind of support Goldie's ongoing education series with workshops and collaborate. But you're right. We don't really per se have a specific site or availability to post other things. It's always kind of word of mouth, and then we kind of use the energy fair as a extended hand to get the word out on whether it's workshops they're doing or neighborhood stuff. But I will say this. When I first came here to Crestone, I had friends named Thomas and Deborah who were building an Earthship down the road from me. And I was here, I bought land the year before that, but I was going to plan on starting my build. And there's a thing called woofing. Raise your hand if anybody's ever heard of woofing before. Okay, so about half you guys maybe. So woofing is, I believe it stands for Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms. So it's primarily around farming and gardening and everything that goes into a farm. But there's a lot of now and then you can find alternative builds on woofing too. So my friends Thomas and Deborah had an Earthship build that was a mile and a half down the road from where I was planning on building. And I stayed and lived with them for 3 months. I learned a little bit about the county stuff and building in the Baca. So I know it's not specifically our umbrella of volunteering and organizing, but sites like Workaway or Whooping are big time sites where you stay with a host family and they feed you for 4 or 5 days a week, and you might work 3 or 4 hours in the morning and then have your weekends off. So it's a great way to learn something and kind of continue your education or your area of where you want to get at, and people are doing similar things. So.
Oh. Yeah, I love it too.
Great question, John. So John was asking about um, the time period of building. So initially, you have 18 months to pull your permits, or to build rather, with your POA permits, with your VACA permits, and then 6 months after that, it starts to expand into a fee. The fee system again kind of doubles every 6 months. But the way to reset your fee and to get your deposit money back that you deposit is you get some when your foundation is done. So like when all my tires were done with my 900 square foot Earthship, I probably have 350 tires, 400 tires, which is really isn't a lot for such a small Earthship. But I got $500 back from my deposit. After the next step of your deposit money you get back is what's called exterior completion. So when my stucco was done and my windows were done and my roof was done, even though I had dirt floors on the inside of my house and no electricity or no plumbing yet, I was able to reset my permit fee again to $35. So if you are 4 years into your build and you haven't got exterior completion, finish the outside of the house first and then do the inside, because besides the electrical inspector and the plumbing inspector, again, we don't have a county inspector that's going to come through and say, oh, those studs are 24 inches apart opposed to 16, or hey, your roof rafters are 24 opposed to 12. There's nobody coming and looking at how you build it.
Even if it means pulling all of your stuff inside of your house just to get exterior completion and taking it out the next day, do what you got to do to get that finalized.
Yeah.
Just making sure everything's still.
Yeah, it's all about getting off the system of pain.
Mr. Adam Kidding.
What would you do different?
Great question.
Nice, Adam. You got something?
Okay, so what I would do different, it's kind of a double-edged sword because I used a lot of repurposed materials. So pretty much every single window and door in my house, except for one, I got that was used, right? And I saved thousands of dollars on using repurposed materials. I think a lot of foam board that I got for certain things I repurposed, right? The thing about using repurposed materials, although you're saving money and you're giving it extra life, it's a lot of your own hours of processing things down. So if you take apart an old shed that has this awesome cedar wood on it and you want to use that cedar wood for trim or whatever, and you're going to rip it down and plane it down and cut it to dimension, things like that, all that takes time. So I think I think if it was for me, I would have maybe used a little bit more stuff at the time if I could. And obviously I was on a shoestring budget, so I didn't have a lot of financial ability. But if I would have been able to save a little bit more money, to make it expedite the process of getting it done quicker. Because there was a lot of time where I mean, even getting the tires, it's great to use them, but I went out, every tire I got was pretty much from Swatch County dump. And it was 40, 50 tires at a time. So it's just all day of just getting tires from the dump at landfill. And that's super fulfilling and cool because you're taking stuff out that's going to get buried and off gas into the environment or whatever. But it just takes a lot of time. So if I could, I would have maybe tried to expedite the process of using used materials.
We were just talking about this on the home tours today, and it's free materials aren't free. You know, they take, in order to take free materials and make them look cool, it takes a ton of hours. There's
Those ones are 30.
good point. I agree with Pete on that. I also would, what I would do differently is I would have learned more about roofing systems. There's a lot of roofing politics out there.
She'll do a free leather.
I just kind of struggled with mine a little bit, and my burn is a little bit annoying right now. I would have maybe, and I was pretty.
Oh, that's understandable. It's understandable.
Initially, as if you live here, you know what the mice can do. You know where
Your
they can
stuff is
go. It
beautiful.
can be a messy
It's
nightmare
worth the
sometimes,
price.
and I'm kind of living it now because of
She puts a lot of heart
some
and
work I
soul
didn't
into
fully do.
Another,
She
that's
makes
a
every one
great
of them. She doesn't
add
make.
on
She
to
doesn't
Matt's.
replicate
Another
them.
thing that I
So
would have
they're
done
all
differently
one-offs.
on
And then
my
once they're gone,
airship, I
gone.
have
But she
It's my husband's
infill
birthday out
cement
here
slab,
today.
4-inch slab, very
So
traditional
come
for out here,
sleeping.
4 or 5 inch slab.
See,
And
honey,
the back slab I have insulated with recycled and repurposed foam board that I more or less got for free. But my front slab, which is about 300 square foot, I didn't insulate it. So because at the time it was going to be an extra $500, $600, $700 that I didn't have, and I just wanted to get that floorboard, you know. And looking back at it, it's like, I probably should have waited an extra month or two, push back pouring the slab and put foam in it because, or whatever type of natural insulation, scria, anything, because sometimes it doesn't perform as good if I would have spent the money right away. Same thing with insulation in people's roofs or walls. Depending on whatever material you use, some are natural, some are unnatural. If you're on a budget, everything costs money. And it's like you would love to have your roofs and have R40 in your walls or R50 in your room or R60 in your room.
Very good.
But sometimes it might only be R45. It might be R40. It's like
It's a boss. She's made
spend a
everyone
little
go.
bit more money on
Thanks, my old military hat.
So.
You have a good one.
Yeah, that's why we're here too. Is a lot of the stuff is when you're building your own home, you get to a step and you're like, okay, we need to do this part, and it's like, well, how do we do it? And there's a ton of questions, and you know, you can reach out to us for answers and what maybe not to do.
Any other questions? We got about 10 minutes left. Any other question? I think I have two quick questions. First, what did you guys do for work as you're paying for it for the 4 or 5 years? And two, say you like bought land, could you just not pull your permit for a few years, save up money and like resources, and then pull the building permit? Great questions. So when I first got here, I got a job at Moffett School, the K-12 school. I have a degree in music technology and audio recording, so I actually was teaching out there. And the 4th year I worked there, where I was still building my house, I was teaching K-12, so I was full time. But I think the salary that I was making was like $30,000 a year. So, like how they said yesterday, that's almost at poverty at this level. You know, like 25 grand is poverty or whatever. It's crazy. But I was kind of, I was a school teacher. And during the summers and Moffitt's 4-day weeks, I've worked with a lot of local contractors to learn skill sets because, again, I had no experience with building. I didn't even know a screw gun or an impactor, a skill saw or anything. So I've worked with a lot of builders. And again, there's a lot of people that are happy to show you stuff and, you know, whether it's conventional construction or alternatives to construction. But I was a school teacher and I worked weekends and summers doing construction to kind of help pay for it. Matt.
Didn't you work for Adam Kinney for a shift or two? Because I know I did.
Adam Kinney over there, Blue Earth Design. I worked at his wood shop, and he taught me a little bit about carpentry and some initial things before I actually built my house. So that was great.
Yeah, I did construction. I pretty much got sucked right into it. I had a little bit of construction experience before I moved here. I was a welder and worked on a farm, and I fixed a few cars and generators and just some mechanic stuff. Did a few welding projects with some of our community members who just scoop you up. And if you're willing to work here, man, there's construction work here that needs done. There's a housing shortage. There is plenty of work, and you don't need that much knowledge. I think if it's 90% showing up and being willing to learn, and maybe keep your mouth shut a little bit and just swing the hammer, and get up there and do it.
And to answer the second question on when we bought our land and how much do we save up before we did it or whatever, I bought my land the year before I moved down here. And again, I got it for $2,700. It was dirt cheap back then. I think every car that I've ever bought in my life cost more than my land, which is crazy.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
But
definitely.
But yeah, I took about a year and a half or so, year or so worth of saving, and I really didn't have a lot when I first started. I think I maybe had 10, 12 grand to start with, and it was like it went quick. And then everything else was $500 at a time.
I would need to have that cutout in the center.
Right. I'm looking. This is just an example of
Yeah. I saved up a little chunk of money working in California before I moved out, and luckily my partner Goldie, we split the finances on our land, which is great. And we kind of just, we bought the land and got the permits and kind of roughed it out there for a little while. And thanks to our neighbors, Mark and Shara over there, who didn't, no one ratted us out for maybe sleeping on the property a couple nights we shouldn't have, but that's kind of how we got along, and bent a few rules. I'll say that out loud. I don't care.
Yeah.
To get it done, because I mean, you're invested in your parcel, you're invested in your land. Your house is going to be a part of you, and I think that the more time you spend out there, and the more time you're staring at stuff, even like eating dinner, just staring at the thing you just put up, like holy shit, like pardon my language. Like where are we gonna go with this? It's step by step, and you have to wear a ton of hats.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you're an electrician, and 2 minutes later you got to start plumbing some stuff and get out the whole different tool bag. And no, once you pull your permit, the clock starts ticking. So that's why we were saying, you can buy your land and you still pay POA fees. And if you're in the grants, I believe you have to pay a water and sanitation bill, even if you don't have a active permit.
I don't know that, but
Yeah, you do. Which is funny. But so once you pull that permit, the clock is going. So fill those bags and pound those tires quick, get it done in the time to where you can get exterior completion. And Chris Wybro, I just want to say his name. I really appreciate that guy. He works for the POA. I like to say something positive about the POA for a change. And I'm rooting for Chris. I think that he's a really good change for us.
Yeah. And working with the POA, working with your neighbors, meet people, have relationships with people where you're not being a hermit and trying to act like everybody's gonna
They are
jump
all
on
natural.
you or
she won't use resins.
tell on you for something that you're really not supposed to be doing, but you're doing or whatever. Have a good relationship and be educated. Try to know what you have to do so you don't come into it thinking that people
That
need
is
to
good.
explain every single step, because if you don't know what you're doing, it's going to show. And sometimes having a little bit of an idea or being a little bit prepared makes it easier of a process to do everything. Whether it's POA, get county permits, land use, just have an idea of what to do.
Another slice of advice: if you're on a neighborhood email thread, try not to argue on those. Just walk on over and chat it out, because it usually ends up better face to face. I feel like it's a bad platform for neighborhoods. It's a good platform for information, but not a good platform to argue. So
Get along with your neighbors.
Get along with them. Do your best.
Don't be a jerk.
Knock on their door. Learn a little bit. Right, guys?
We live in the country. We live in a frontier county.
It doesn't seem like we are in the country.
Crestone keeps on growing and the box keeps on growing, but wave. When you drive by someone, wave.
Yeah.
It's your neighbor.
Be friendly. Love each other. Accept each other. Help each other. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Appreciate that.
Have a good day.
We got 5 minutes left. Who has a question? I'll just say this because I don't want to go too into details on certain things. Technically, you're not really supposed to live in your house until it's final. Wink, wink, nod, nod. But what it comes down to is, I think if you do, quote unquote, move in a little bit earlier than you're supposed to, sometimes you're working in your own mess. When I kind of moved into my place and I wasn't really supposed to be there technically, but a year later I was official with it. I mean, I had dirt floors. It's like I was pulling stuff out from dirt floors to move chairs and beds so I could do the slab, or hey, I'm doing plasters and cob on the inside. Now I have to pull stuff that, sometimes living in your own space that you're still trying to finish can be a nightmare. Not saying that it doesn't save money, because that's why I did it. I got sick of paying $1,000 a month for rent or whatever it was, and just said, hey, I can put that towards my build if I rough a little bit.
Yeah, I think what I romanticize about it is just like being forced to kind of sleep outside and be outside more. Now that the house is built, I feel like we don't go outside as much as we want. And Crestone's beautiful. This is like the best place on earth. I think it's paradise. And yeah, I just feel like I spend too much time inside. And I just remember sleeping out there and getting all the stars and the elk bugle and the season changes. You really just you absorb it all. And I mean, I'm always dirty, but just being dirty is fun, I think, sometimes.
And speaking of outside, I'll tag on what Matt just said. Please, 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 if you don't get anything from the energy fair, the building panels, if you're planning on building a house, please, please, please think about passive solar and facing your house south. I don't care if you build a stick frame house, traditional house, whatever it is, face it south and try to get some of that passive solar, because we all love the mountains, and sure, we would all like our houses to be pointed at the east to look at the mountains, but your house isn't performing the same way, and it's like, go outside if you want to look at the mountains.
It's face your house south to get the sun, everyone. That's about it, right?
Any last minute questions?
Any questions?
We got 2 minutes. We got time for one more.
No?
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you, Energy
Yeah,
Fair.
go check out our YouTube channel, Owner Builders Unite.
Please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Throw a couple likes in there, maybe
do
a
a lot of
comment.
stuff with the Energy Fair and support stuff that goes on throughout the year, so it's a good way to follow what's going on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
All right, thank you, Owner Builders Unite, and thanks for everybody's involvement in that. I think a lot of us have come here not just for nature, but to be involved in this. And I live off the grid myself. I've built about 5 straw bale houses, so I'm in it with you guys too. Okay, so thank you. We have a new panel coming up in the next 15 minutes or so, and that's called Dreamers of the Future. And there's going to be more building and talking about that, okay, creating. So please stick around, you guys that were, interested in the building. We're not done yet, okay? And that's going to be painting a picture for the most beautiful future we can imagine. So remember, our theme is reimagine. And so we're going to be having a conversation. We'll have Alpine Valley mushrooms, Crestone Charter School. We got a whole bunch of people that are going to be in on the talk. Death in the Garden folks. Matt's partner Goldie, who's been doing home tours, she's going to be part of that. And so we'd like you all to participate. So in a few minutes, we'll be doing that. Okay. Thank you.
It looked like they're rolling. Yesterday, yeah. That's okay. You can try.
How you doing today?
Okay. Oh, cool. Yeah. How are you? Nice. Thank you. You're like, sorry about this. Okay. Okay. That's oil. I don't know if it.
Yeah, no, it's I know. No, it's-
Taking all kinds of stuff.
Just a little background. She hand makes every one of these. They're all natural. There's no plastics or resins. They're one off. She never replicated it again, and she guarantees they're one. She's got one really one nice. She can make. See, look. Jasper.
It's Jasper.
Just have a good day.
Yes. Claro, sí, hay que ponerlo. Sobre todo, cultura. Okay. We're all day. What's that? What's the other? Sí. So short, so
So so short.
for the snowman.
Oh,
it looks out.
oh, it's so heavy. It's thick.
Yeah, I think you should go up on this one, but it's metal, so it'll stick, but
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if I should switch to these.
One, I would leave personally. I think probably after like I said, 2 or 3, you're gonna see once you like maybe like you said the prices go down, you'll see it. People are gonna start buying it because they do know that the pie company, they vendors and their discounts a little bit. Yeah, so, oh,
So I could go get
that honey. Yeah, yeah, I got somewhere at the bottom.
Good afternoon. How's everybody doing on this beautiful sunny day? Woo! Woo! Love the energy there. Yeah, I'm Lisa Bodie. I'm the director of this event, so thank you. I just want to take a moment to thank some of our sponsors, but first I want to thank Kim, Dr. Kim Egnar, who's been our MC for the weekend. So thank you for this time and commitment and really being present with the stage. And
Yeah, thank you. I, like everybody else around here, it's such a buildup to the event because we're working so hard and people, many people more than me coming up to the event. I feel like, coming in and holding it is part of it. But what I would say is, I think we all love it, even if it's hard as hell sometimes, and my partner asked me last night, like, how are you doing? Because not a lot of sleep and pulling it together. And I'm like, I'm having a blast. I really love it. I love the people that I'm working with. And there's always new volunteers and people with new energy, and we need you. But it's just fun to see how everybody can come together and pull something off like this. So I just wanted to share that, and thanks to everyone.
yeah, so speaking of pulling it off, we could not do this without all of our sponsors. So first, we really want to thank Saguache County and county commissioners. We apply for a sales tax grant as well as a lot of our other nonprofits and small businesses in the community. So they're at our visionary level of sponsors. And then the town of Crestone, of course, that we have access to all 3 parks, the streets, they're electric. They with Nick Navarez and Mountainside Realty have been able to fundraise to get this new permanent stage built, which is a huge improvement. So when you look at utilizing resources that we're not building and tearing down from our own energy to the actual materials. So that is wonderful. And speaking of that, thanks Brett Buchanan, our lead builder, my partner too, for stepping in very last minute to take over the construction and the architecture with Elijah Wenham, to really make some other details dialed in for this to be a safe and beautiful structure. So thank you.
And
of course, Succeed is
Micro.
Watch County Environment and Economic Development.
Doc-
They are our fiscal sponsor. And without their support,
Thank you.
guidance, and board,
It's a little
we
bit
wouldn't
about
be
it.
able to
Is
do
my,
this. So
all my, all
if you,
of,
hopefully you got over
wow,
there to
that
have
went
some of their pancakes this morning. So
all,
they did
these
a
are all
great
created by
job.
my
So
wife.
thank you.
She
Nick,
she
with
does
Mouth,
one-off
I mentioned
pieces
Nick
and they're all
Navarez is our
natural.
producer. And
Very
he's
beautiful.
in kind
Yep, she just finished
donations. We
that
can't
one just
equate
about
to
10
money.
minutes ago.
Oh
So
my
as a
She did that
professional
one a little bit
producer.
ago. She's done a few
So
of them
really
this
want to
morning
thank
already.
him for that. And I know I mentioned Brett, but I
They
didn't
are
say
really
his
cute. The fairy bottles.
construction company is Crescent
She loves what she
Boone
does.
Construction.
It really is.
SLV
Yes,
REC,
ma'am. You have a good
our
day.
rural electric co-op. You know, they have a new director, and thanks to Wade Lockhart, we were able to go in and with presentations
It's not
from
too
other
bad.
community groups. They also came in
It's
at
not
our
too bad.
visionary level. So we're really
It's an,
excited for that future and what we can work.
how you doing today?
And they're
And then
embracing alternative energy. I just wanted to point
Love your
that out,
shirt.
right?
Thank you.
yeah,
Me
they're
So we
too.
want to
Matches
let everybody know
Venom.
that the rural
Polar opposites.
CEO
You know?
and
Yeah,
they're, you know,
totally.
being a
Dude, I love
co-op,
it.
cooperative
Go ahead.
group, that
How
they're
you been
really
today? You enjoyed
embracing,
the fair?
I think, some
Yeah, we've been
alternative
here
energy
just
now.
for a couple of
So
minutes, so just
kudos
getting
to them
getting
for
into it, but it's fun.
Yeah.
It's kind of
And
nice.
then the Elephant Cloud Market or the
Finally,
Cloud Station,
Yeah,
you'll see where
yeah.
our music stage
From
is.
Australia? Or?
Yeah,
They
good catch.
Yeah,
have
I
also
been subtly getting
donated
the
the
difference
land
between
where that natural
Australia and
build
like maybe
is
getting in
going,
that
at least
area.
for us to build
But
on.
you
The,
just
the
first time
land
in
that can
America? Or
donate,
you
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they've
Me and
given
my
us
fiance went
permission
in
and with
where
the town to
she's
do
from
that
here.
Okay.
real
So we're
life
here for 2
demonstration
months
with all
visiting
of
her
you. So
dad.
you can be
And
learning the new techniques.
yeah,
It's
You like
pounding
it so far?
tires
I
to
do. Yeah, I was a
rock
little
walls,
worried
stone
coming just because
foundation,
like you see a
hempcrete was
lot of
happening
bad stuff
today
on the
at the
news
COB
and online,
yesterday,
and I
and
haven't
there
really
will be a
experienced it.
bottle
But
wall.
That's
So
good.
get
You
over
don't
there. It's on the
generally
corner
feel
right
that,
when you
but
come into
for
town.
like,
Is our building
I
natural building
criticize more
demonstration.
America than I do a lot of
So we're
the other
excited
countries.
again. We
But when
don't
you're with
have
the
to
people,
tear
it's
that
not so bad.
structure
It's not
down.
because they feel the
And
whole network of that.
you want me to keep
You
going?
sell that.
exactly.
So I'm
Heck
surprised
yeah,
it
because
is.
we fill our
Most of the
we're
stuff I
all of
do
our other panels.
was they only spoke good things.
Okay.
Yeah, all fake.
So at
I
our
just see a
birth
lot of stuff.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Treeport, you out there? Golden Turtle Sound?
yeah.
Where'd you go? Okay, he's already
The
heard
difference
that.
is in Australia, we don't have
Helping
guns.
him. You out there, Karen?
That.
He's
Dogs
probably
are
on the
coming
other
here, but
stage.
I
They're
haven't seen a gun since I've
running
except at a gun
and
store. So.
supporting you. So making sure all of our sound on you. And they just do a fabulous job. So thanks, Treeport. And then Doug and Beechwood, you in the good dolphin over there? Doug's with Terra Media. They're probably working hard. They're on the video with and on a live stream and making it possible because a lot of this we need to utilize this education.
At least by
You can see Pat prior to 3 years now, as well as
like you saw which one of our place.
so even if you
She
put
walks
it
out
in
brown bear steering.
or on live stream, it's in the archive. You can watch these archive videos
Yeah,
later.
we saw one on the highway.
And I
It
want
was
to
just off the side as we stopped and took some
Coil
pictures. Which was
Solar
good. I'm glad it
Parker
wasn't
Chris.
close. It was a good help at this time. Yeah.
I've seen her, I walk out, she's like, whoa. What?
To have this
It's like,
lovely
there's a
array
brown bear sitting on the corner. He's looking at me like, wow. Your guy.
stations.
He just walks away. It's
Love
crazy a lot of things.
and Goldie Marie, I saw her. Hey, you really step on up here.
Like I said,
Goldie's in kind of time running our home tours. I think some of you went on these construction and new
And
construction.
they're the ones who I see on
Thank
the internet a lot. Exactly.
how do you are?
With it. Thanks. And you can moderators. And
Yeah.
Well, you can come back.
I can come back. I've only got a couple more. Of Eden, our kitchen witch, Eden Elderberry Berry with Nug Life Healing Soap. Tons of hours to coordinate feeding all of our volunteers. We had over 250 shifts to fill this weekends and things. If you were a volunteer, please make sure you go eat, even if we got to get you a meal ticket.
She's doing a fabulous job over there in Phoenix. Where she's doing.
That being said, I am looking forward to
Planning presentations, music, down to all of the healing, healing stations too. She put this program together.
Little background, she's made all of these handmade. Yep, she did all of them. She only dug one off. She never replicated the style, the shape, anything. And they're all natural. Everything you see here is no plastic or resins. So, definitely. It's nice meeting you. Oh, I thought you were like, oh, yeah. No, please, please, please.
Yeah, it was nice to.
Oh, yeah, I enjoy a good time. Anywhere in the world. I'm actually traveling to you guys suddenly by next summer over in Japan. Yeah, we're gonna take a trip there. We're going to Germany and possibly December. So we've only both traveled on our deployments. Like I went to Afghanistan, she went to Korea. So other than that, I've been flown through every years, but I'm very curious to get the rest of the world. As most of honestly,
Taylor Martin.
I always say we're an island. You guys literally are on a continent, but we're cut off.
We're goddess of
To go
security.
it's thousands of dollars for us to travel.
Arjuna, Isaiah.
Yeah, it's easy for us to get to
She
like.
hears her kids' names.
Southeast
There's
Asia and stuff
Taylor.
like
There's
that.
Taylor
She's
waving.
coming here.
Thank you, Taylor. We're
Yeah,
gonna bring
and
you up here
that's
at
what
the
I
end
can't
for some
stand. It's like
interactive
we're
conversation.
so
But
cut
thank
off
her.
from the
She's
world.
taking care of your kids.
How do we become part
And
of the world
allowing
if
the
we're
parents
cut
to
from the
break
world?
and interacting
So
in that
it's definitely a
intergenerational way.
worth
This is
experience,
really
you know?
the
But
part of
yeah, definitely.
a
I'm
festival
glad you
fair
at least
like
enjoy
this.
yourselves.
If we're taking care of
Yeah,
our
we
children
are.
well,
We spent the last 10
and each
days
other,
camping
then
around
we're doing
Colorado.
something
It was just so
right.
beautiful.
So yeah.
Oh,
If you're
yeah.
like the
And so
Southwest,
yeah, the amount of
to like
time that
Telluride,
she puts
Okay.
into this programming and
you
bringing
go to
instructors
Springs,
in.
Valley
Thank
View,
you. So
Oh,
we'll get on to some other sponsors and our
Ridgeway,
thanks.
Ridgeway.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we're gonna
Just
do in our
amazing.
closing,
Just
of course,
really
a thank
beautiful
you to
country.
everybody.
Oh,
But
yeah,
please
no,
give a
yeah.
round of applause
Augusta
for
Springs
Lisa
is very
Bye.
nice. Did you guys
She's
get the
been
hot
back and
We
Styna?
didn't
forth
go to the
across
main one. We went
states,
to
her
like a
and
budget
Brett,
one.
taking
Okay.
care
There
of
for the
family
night.
and
Oh, it's a
just giving
shame.
so
There's
much
free
to this
ones.
community over
Yeah.
the years.
Yeah,
So
if
definitely Lisa.
you know when you go into Pagosa and you go where the river is, it
Yeah.
runs right. If you go down to the river, all
Okay.
of that is hot springs.
Y'all
That's all
ready to
free.
do some
And
dreaming?
you can sit there all night long.
Dreaming of the
Like
Maybe
future.
there's
if we go back there one
That's
day,
what
I'll
we're
check it
gonna
out.
be
yeah, check it
doing
out. It's
right
called
now.
it's listed on the map
So
as
we've got our
Nathan's
new
Hut. You can
panel,
dip your hot
Dreamers
springs.
of the
But
Future.
it's literally
And
around the
this
river. You'll see the
panel was
pools.
dreamed
Just
up
undress,
with the
walk
idea
down.
not
It's not
only are we
unusual for people to go
reimagining
naked there.
Oh
things
wow.
Yeah, I mean, in the middle of the
coming
night, you'll
out
see it.
of
We were sitting
not
there, we
just
were
the
having a couple
COVID
beers,
cycle,
just chilling.
but a
And
lot of people,
some old guy,
all of
mountain
us had
man
to
comes
do,
down. He's like,
right?
mind if I
Some
join you? Yeah, come on in.
introspection about life. And many people
We're in the
have
mountains. This is what we do
lost
here.
their life
So
or we've
it's fun.
experienced a
If
change
you're
in
not
our
used to it,
lives
people
because
do
of that.
get a little like,
But this is
I'm
also
like,
that opportunity to be dreaming
whatever.
and
I've been to
recreating,
plenty of
right?
clothing
It leaves
festivals.
a
So.
whole,
Please,
but
yeah,
a
that's
whole
good.
life
That's good.
filled
I'm
with
glad.
something
I
positive.
love
And you and
meeting world
Baby,
travelers
as
because I
with
get to
Lydia
see
and
another
Michael,
part of the world,
and
and I
also
can't wait to get
new
to that side of the world.
ideas. And
I said there's very
so
few places
I
I'll
think
go in
this
the
is a
world.
great idea for a
Amazon's one of
panel.
them,
I'm
and then the
sure one
outback.
of
I
you
don't
in
know if I'm going
support
to
of it.
survive out there, even
The
though I'm
Dreamers of
very
the
good at
Future panel will
survival
paint the
and have
picture
gone a
for the
lot of
most
crazy
beautiful
places.
future
I
that
know
we
where
can
I'm not
imagine
supposed to be.
for ourselves and our community.
No,
As we
you know, but if I ended
reimagine
up there,
what we
I'd be able
want
to
our
get
world
loose,
to
you
look
know.
like,
But
we can look
it's
to
very
the
cool meeting
people
you,
who
sir.
are
What's your name?
actively creating
Jesse?
the world that
Drake.
they're dreaming of.
Nice to
That's
meet you,
probably
Drake.
You
everybody,
too, sir.
I would
If you're
imagine.
interested, take a
I'm
Carter
going to
cruise,
pass the
and
mic
she does have a
over to
website. So if you're
our
ever getting
wonderful
interested,
host,
she does
Goldie
custom orders, and
Mariola.
she ship
She's
all over the world.
not going to want this
Fantastic. You know,
thing.
please enjoy it. Absolutely.
Are you
Let's
ready,
catch you around,
Goldie?
And you too, later, Jeff. You have a good
Okay,
one.
I'm going to hand you the mic, and she will introduce you to our panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Hey, dreamers of the future, we're ready for you on stage.
Little background: my wife makes every one of these pieces. She makes them handmade, never duplicates design, and they're all natural, plastics, no resins.
It's cool.
hmm She actually did these two this morning, along with a few others. She's a machine. She could. She's incredible. He does.
I just want him to like have some.
Yes. That was a really cool one. She just finished that one this morning, like about 10, 20 minutes ago. Oh, he's pretty cool.
Is it? Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. I'm Goldie, and
It's my race.
here's Anya, Lisa Bodie, Dea, Mary, Jake, Tyler. We'll hear more from each of them and what their inspiration and their each individual project has been, but I'd like to share just a little bit about where the inspiration for this panel came from. I'll give a little shout out to Lydia. Lisa already mentioned that, unfortunately she's not here with us today, but her spirit is most definitely infused in everything that's going on. She had so much to do with the production of this. So sending her lots of love with her new little baby. And yeah, Lydia and I were just actually cleaning her kitchen one day. She was like, I need one more idea for a panel. And I was like, well, if we go with the theme of like reimagining our future, how we wanted something that can kind of bring together people that really are doing
So much.
creating the world that we want to see. Like that's kind of the spirit of the energy fair. I think we bring a lot of people in who have really innovative ideas, and we're a bunch of like-minded people out here, so it's really nice to get everyone together to talk about the future and how do we actually start living the life that we want to see and reimagining, new ways and doing things that actually work and make sense and are in line with our values. So that was the inspiration, and of course, just like everything happens with the energy fair, like people just fall into place here. So we have these awesome people who are doing a really like the depth of knowledge that these people have in their specific projects and life is incredible, and it's also all over the board. So really, like when we think of reimagining our future, it's every aspect. It's education, it's death, it's birth, it's prison systems and food systems and everything. So there's no rock unturned over here. So
Yeah, I'm Anya. I'm standing in for Lydia. I was helping her booking and some of the many jobs that she has to produce this event. Yeah, really grateful to step in. I have a podcast called The Millennials Guide to Saving the World.
Yeah, I'm trying to get rid of taxes.
I talk to people all the time about how can we sort of face these challenges that we're facing right now. With intention and the podcasts. I know.
Yeah. See when I do that? Okay, see, I did that last time.
What we're all doing here is a big part of that. Being as local as possible and saving maybe our world and our backyard. So yeah, grateful to stand in. So why don't we start with some introductions?
Let's go 2 o'clock.
Why are you
2 o'clock.
get started with the project that you're working on?
Up right
And
now.
what is
After 2.
some of the projects?
Hey, good morning. As I mentioned, my name's Lisa Bodie. So I'm the current director of the Energy Fair. It's the 5th year in that. Yeah. So then also we started an offshoot called the Crestone Energy Exchange. And that was to allow us to engage in more of political activity or legislation.
And he took a card. Hold on.
And under that, so you see the fair with
education
series that we've
that would be awesome. I told him
So
that'd be
those are-
awesome.
those
It was
two
funny though. He
aspects
was
were doing
he was white
Change,
Spider-Man.
we
I was
started a
black.
community firewood
He
program.
was like, we're literally
and we're really trying to remodel the
That's 2 o'clock.
structure of where everything is just seeing capital as your one resource. So we expanded it. If you can pay for firewood, amazing. If you can't and you can work with us, we want to teach you how do you use the chainsaw, the maintenance, how do you get out into the woods and
Messy
look
work
season it. So then
just
we did
proves that,
a
you're
work
worth it.
trade. And then with Neighbors Helping
Okay, well,
Neighbors,
I'll be
we
right back.
partnered so that those who really couldn't, whether it was age, disabilities, finances, that needed that free wood, we can still service those people in our community. So we expanded that. Sorry, I'm going really long. And then the free box. So the free box, as most of you, if you haven't been here, it's a place where people can bring items that are gently used, books, houseware, and donate them as an exchange for the community. So we're closing that loop on our waste stream that's going to the landfill. And then the third aspect of that is mindful land use. And that was where we started working with the county with codes and minimum square footage to energy conservation. And so that's the exchange piece. So that's the current one. And how I got here was because Donovan, like 6 years ago, wrote me into this with a steak and wine dinner.
Yeah, it's hard to get the rings the right sizes, So
Hi, I'm Dan Shaki.
my partner.
If you know me, you probably know me as a school teacher over at the Crestone Charter School.
Yeah, I'm
there.
loving wire.
It's fine. I like working at the. I like years ago to be a part of that school. I'd been to Crestone once or twice, and I'd heard about this incredible charter school that was born out of the love and efforts of this community and the parents that weren't quite satisfied with the choices out there. And I came and I heard there was a job opening. I came up here and I was just really blown away by the teaching staff that I saw here, which were so passionate, so free and creative in what they were creating together through experiential learning and outdoor experiences and ski programs and the incredible Link High School that was conceived of as with its mentorship program. I just really want to be a part of that. I was doing some teaching in other places, always on fringes of the public school world because I for one feel stifled by the public school systems, and I know probably a lot of people do. So I was just really thrilled to come to a school that felt like a community school, a family school. And it's been, for me, the most incredible creative outlet. I feel like all of my love and my creativity can get channeled into these projects. So I've been teaching music and art, and right now I'm teaching 4th and 5th grade, having an amazing time, and I'm sure we have lots of great things to talk about. So I'm going to pass the mic. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Marion, and me and my partner Jake are the creators of a multimedia project. It's a film, it's a book, it's also going to be, it is already a podcast and everybody. And essentially this project is basically about climate change is a jumping off point to really start to analyze civilization and the direction of civilization and what kind of world we actually want to live in. And it's this coming of age story, basically us going on this journey of trying to understand why the world is the way that it is and to understand ways that we might be able to get out of it and really start to ingratiate ourselves with ecosystems again, become protagonists in nature and start building communities that are healthy. And we have just taken this very long journey, and this film series and the project, it covers a lot of different topics, but we focus on philosophy and civilization stories. We focus on agriculture.
So
we focus on just all these ways that we're trying to manage climate change that sort of tend to take for granted as industrial civilization that we are currently a part of.
And then
We'll take $5 off,
tend to
and
not
then
question the
anything
premise,
that's
above
not
35.
fully from our
25,
view
35
of where this is going, and are we happy with the way that civilization is going? And so it's really a story of two young people who are trying to understand the world as it is and hopefully show that there's other ways to live and that there's no one right. There's so many potentialities, possibilities.
Thanks for stopping by.
Hi,
Styna. I've made
civilization.
Everything here. Okay, we'll
That
take
was
a
pretty
look.
and it's
extensive.
all real gems. So there's some plastics.
Awesome.
And you can look at
The project is called Death in the Garden.
or semi-precious gems.
Okay,
So.
great.
I'm Tyler
Oh
Barry.
my gosh, and do you make these? How do you
Feel
even
very
do
honored.
that? Link.
No, I just bought the chain.
And then
I'm
you do
basically
the
here
class.
as a different one guy as
Cool.
always. I am working
Okay,
with
nice.
family run mushroom. It's grown in some really weirdly serendipitous ways.
I can't even
I got
imagine
into mushrooms specifically
doing
because I was trying to think
It's
of
amazing.
things over
Patience
anywhere
and good
between
eyesight.
physical
Oh, wow.
But life
lion's mane really was what got me into like healing my brain after the chronic.
Yep, she just made these two this morning.
So many times.
I'm sorry, these two.
All these realizing that I'm anxious, depressed,
Quickly.
all these weird.
She does. You work hour.
Once I started incorporating motion into my
As long as I don't distract, that's half the problem.
Sure that happens.
More often.
Where to go?
So you through some of my own traumas, childhood trauma specifically.
Yeah.
That's
Physical trauma.
What yells
through,
out? Sometimes
that's
it's like, hey, let me go with the same color, but it's just a different stuff. And that.
So there's all these like evidence that I was doing. Saw some speak. So then I was like, I just got a call this morning. I found it in college for my professor. I was like, this is some super weird, cringe topic that we don't know either. So you should just continue. I really like my teachers. I didn't see that. So much, so much of this weird. It's just shrooms. So it's actually healing the people around us, which is super impactful for healing ourselves, which is also impactful.
Yeah,
healing some of the system, which is
understandable.
So you've been talking septic system, so it's kind of
inoculation that I was going to try to work on.
Are
so
you
in Squatch County?
Yeah,
where for nowhere?
Yes,
and
it's
a few other people
northern
to
Los
make
Animas, right on
sure
the
that we can get the landfill
The old rugby area.
see that.
Where is it?
The old rugby mines area, that's the old coal mines
So that
area
we don't
there
have
on
to
that side. They're
continually
between
make all these
Walsenburg and
cells,
Aguilar.
and then
That
just
whole
keep
section
doing
was
it,
the
putting
coal
trash
mines.
and
Yeah, that we're back in
I'll
there.
speak to that.
Okay.
Yep, and we're putting up a Earthship, or not Earthship, a Cal Earth bag house.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep, we're building one out there.
Stuffing them with the
Road base. Yep, road base.
Because we're kind of on a gradient, we have to have that weight to push it down. Yeah, building so it doesn't slide. So like the hay bales wouldn't have worked. It's too wet and too windy. The hempcrete too wet to be on the ground. So it's like what's the best method?
And I am feeling like I just really want to dive right into it and just see what you guys think about like when you imagine the long-term impact of
one time 6 hours.
Yeah.
We laid what?
Locally and then maybe even on a larger scale. So what is the most exciting,
just as to say
the most wonderful possibility?
That's what we are. We're building a full circle. It's going to be a 10-meter roundhouse. With a bit of luck, we'll have vaulted ceilings with a living roof. And kind of just blends in with the entire.
Well, part of it for me is actually happening as an arena. So, 3 years ago, we started on a with this pair with Reconnect. And that was during COVID. We were one of the only, if not the only event that happened in Squatch County.
That's true.
You was an architect. We had to make a decision as a crew, the town wouldn't accept our application. So we went to private
Okay,
land.
yeah, now I know you.
Donated his
So you said that.
for us to
I
start building, but we then had to.
either.
We didn't have any.
We got to meet a couple of them when we were
in
out
the
here
soil,
the first
the desert,
fair that we went to about 4 years ago,
out
3
in
years
the
ago.
county,
And when they were out in the desert,
the fact that we did it and
Marco
kept
was
with
the
that
instructor,
Connect name that
and
we
we were
all
working
all
with
had
him,
really
and then we
supporting
got
each
the
other
guys
now
who
more than
built
ever.
That's
Great. And then
come
we
over
went
and filled
into
bags,
last year with Reclaim,
and they
where we
instantly
realized,
became.
in fact, we're still
Yeah,
here.
it was a weird. Like nobody thought, like, what if we could have bags now become much lighter, much more efficient, and they did, and she was like, God, they were surprised, like, we need to get together. It's just unfortunate we just haven't got there. But yeah, you fill those with hemp paper, pound them down. They're extremely strong. Their strength bags stay together.
That's why.
Well, and just
Even at least coming up with simple things, because to me the simplest things.
That's great.
It was really cool. It was Marco and Edmund is the guy of Hemp Free Builders. Yeah, Mountains. Yeah, those guys are really.
So that we can continue.
Definitely something to think about.
Right.
We've been laughing because we're finally showing up on Google Maps. You can actually
think
find
we're-
on Google Maps.
Oh,
You can actually see our roundhouse being built as a given.
You're official.
Yeah, yeah, we laughed. We finally made Google. And we're like,
That's great.
but yeah, definitely an experience. A lot of work.
A physical location that's not like access. And you drop off those 10 extra at other like
A little bit of background. She made every one of these pieces. And she only makes one of them. She never duplicates, and they're all no plastics or resin.
So
And
that's
she guaranteed all her work.
And then we start looking at our capital in different ways, as I mentioned before. We have money, but when you look at this event, most of these people are doing this out of the love and the passion for this.
You have a good day.
And that we start to value the exchange of resources. So if it's not finances, we need to start looking at what do we have with our energy. Our time's a huge resource. Time banking has been a big thing, and we've tried it as a community, but I'd love to see how we start to reframe that structure of exchange.
How you doing today?
Yeah. Oh, and then with our codes, because we started working with, we were here with that natural building yesterday. We've done a lot of work to see our frontier living, and one of them was with 150 square feet is the state's minimum that you can live in. They wanted to push it to 900. We actually worked with the county and got them to keep with the state because we showed that you can be happy.
How you doing, ma'am?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you. Yep.
So
She handmade every one of
those codes, regulations go are getting the financing with our banks, the insurance problems. We have all of these structures. How do we get our natural building community really aligned so that we can be supporting each other, maybe creating to each other? Thank you.
That's good. That's what she loves to hear is that she gets it. Oh, that's okay.
Okay. Well, I get to work with all of my.
How are you with your work?
Oh, tired. Angers, yeah. Didn't get much further in my stonework. Ended up burning out my grinder. I got to get a demo saw. Something that'll cut through.
So tell her, and I'll show you in a minute why I want. Tell her what you can do. Remember you talked about a bathtub?
Oh yeah. I'm building up. I wanted to build a bathtub, carving it out of natural rock. We have a 4 to 6 ton rock at the bottom of our mountain. When I have it dragged up to the top, I cut in, split in half, put back together to make a bathhouse, Japanese bathhouse. But I want to cut it down by gritting it and getting it down in there to create this natural bath.
Not as that kid, as
yeah, I'm working on stonework now. It was my first piece, and I actually cracked it. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is I'm going to break it off, re-put it back together, and resin the entire thing, adding a little glue or something within the crack, seal it to give it that look. So that way I don't necessarily lose the piece and it gets its own unique shape.
Well, the Japanese technique where they take a piece of pottery and they break it and then they fill it in with gold.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
Yep. So we just met an artist, a jeweler, a friend of mine that gave her some jewelry, her mother. She used to do that all the time. She'd take the plates and shatter them all and then piece them back together for mosaics. So that's just something she was doing, and that might be something I might do or add. I wanted to add in, we have iron on our land in coal, so I might integrate that later on and see what I can do just as an experiment because why not? Why wouldn't I do that, you know?
Yeah.
There's so much potential. And what we're doing is that much more important and that much less important.
Do that charcoal over it's going to
so that's what inspires me, and
bring that yellow.
I also had an experience really notable for me.
Well, let me ask you this, because
early
things
was
are
teaching
about to change for us.
trying to deliver a unit
and
on
where there's a home
environmentalism and why we should recycle. And the whole thing started out with a big, in-depth teaching about
I'd like you to
the
collaborate
garbage and
for
plastic in the
a
ocean,
water feature
landfills,
outside,
and I was watching
carving it
these
out
middle
of
school
stone.
kids
However,
slowly
like
sink
you
under
described
the
with the
weight of
Japanese
all of them.
Bathhouse, yeah,
And then I'm supposed to
carving
say,
it down
"Oh
and
yeah,
stuff.
and this is the
and
lesson." What I
I'd like to see what
realized
you come up with.
then
Tell you what,
that
I'll,
I try
I'll
to
give you a
carry
card.
with me
Actually,
is
I'll
that
give you. Do I have my card?
when we love
Yes,
our
we have my
community,
card.
we want to work
No,
for
it's in the
it.
car.
When we
I'll go get
love
one.
our planet, we love our
No,
lives,
I got
we
one
want
right
to
here.
work for it. So,
Let me give
I,
you a card
you know,
and let's
on a
sit
good
down and
day
talk.
or
Because
what
I would never
the
charge for
world
anything
that I
like
try to
that
draw from
because
is
I'm not an expert.
love, community,
I'm still in the
life,
process of
No, no, that's
understanding.
I'm not
music,
what I'm going.
art,
Oh, okay, okay.
appreciation.
Well, like
No,
I
Those are
came
the kind
from
of
a
things
film
that
standpoint,
really
so when we
seem to
start
get us
budgeting
Right.
those,
excited,
like
especially
my brain went immediately
no,
to
no, no, no.
collaboration,
when
and
they
I'm
Yeah.
hear about a project
No,
like yours,
I
Tyler.
know that
They're
I
gonna
can feel that you're kind of
they're going
person
to
that you're
want to know
not
about
going
that.
to
What? Wait,
promise
mushrooms can help
that
us
you
clean up
can't
this
do.
landfill?
fair enough.
Okay.
We can do that
Okay,
too.
understandable.
So
And
that's part of like kind of the way
so
my mind works is when I hear
what
about a
I'm
project like
asking
that,
for
I'm
you
thinking
to
there's
do
an
is to
opportunity.
pull
That's
out of
something that we can
yourself.
get
Yeah.
into.
Do something
And
expressive
again,
for
that's the reason why I'm at the
state what
Crestone
you
Charter
want.
School because there
Okay.
still
Because we
is
will have
that
2.5
freedom
acres to do
and
it.
that
Okay.
sense of
Okay.
adventure, that sense of
And
inspiration that
so
we, as teachers and as
we're
students and families, we get
we're
to
supposed to be
get
supporting
inspired by something and
all the
follow
local
and see
artists,
where it's
all
going to lead us.
in the ways that we can.
Yeah.
All right, but that property is very, very special
Okay.
for what we're doing.
Okay.
So much of our
So it
project
would be an honor
focuses
for someone
on
like you
the role
to
of
craft
culture
something,
Okay.
and its impact
and
on
we would be open to whatever you
the
decide.
converging crisis we're
Okay.
facing here
Okay.
on Earth.
I would come up with
And
at
so what
least
I
3
really
different
hope
kind of designs that I think
Yeah.
of,
why we're
and then
trying to
show you them
focus so much
to
on
you and see
culture
which one you
is
definitely like.
quite often
I love
the problems we
options and
see
I
in the
love
world and how
creating
we try
something
to
new, so I'd be
structure
honored
ourselves
to do
as
something like
communities
that.
and
Yeah.
And
address the problems we're
definitely, let me
facing.
grab my
We
wife's
quite
grabbing my
often
card,
look
but
at
I'd definitely love to do that.
symptoms
You
and
know?
surface
You know what
level
I was thinking
problems
when
as
you
the
were
problem
talking about the
itself,
back,
and we
right?
feel that
Well, I'm gonna
until
have
we as
a
communities
deck
and
extended
a
off
society at
from
large
where
really
our master
address the
bedroom and stuff
reality of
is,
how
because all the bedrooms are on the
as
first floor.
humans
Okay.
The living area is up on top.
being a
Okay, yeah,
Okay,
collective
we're
so
doing
our
something
bed,
similar.
yeah. So what I
unavoidable.
would
It's
love
we
would be
all
instead of a
operate under
jacuzzi
a
out there,
cultural narrative
a
that tells
two-man
us
type
who we
tub,
are, where we
just
can
sit out on the
going,
deck and
whenever
Yeah.
our
That'd be
life
kind of
takes
cool.
us.
stonework would
Yeah.
be absolutely
Quite
Yes,
gorgeous
often we don't
and
there.
start from
that's
that
what I'm
very
talking about. See,
base
I knew she
place
would have
of the
something.
brainless mindset.
Right
And
now.
so much of our work
Yeah.
And so,
focuses on how we can potentially be trying to solve so many problems while still using the same
I know
cultural
people are not
mythologies that
supposed
tell
to
us
say
how to
this,
be in the world. So I think for me, the biggest hope that I have is that if we're
actually mean
successful in
it.
the work
Right.
we do and our
But
attempts to communicate these concepts is that ultimately we can begin
we
at an
flow
even
through spirit.
deeper place to
Yeah.
inform us on how
We
to
want it
not
to
only
be
form our
what's supposed to be.
communities but address
Right.
pollution and climate
And
change,
this
our
is
toxified
our life
environment,
is going to become, or
and
has
that if
become,
we can
sharing.
address the
Right.
fact that we tell
Okay.
ourselves ambient stories about not only who we
And
are as
so
individuals but as a
cost
community
is
at
no
large,
object.
then we
Okay.
might
Okay.
find some
See what
more
I'm saying?
I get you.
sturdy,
Because it's
solid,
more about what
holistic
you craft
approaches that
in
address even
accordance to how it
wider
resonates
ranges of
with our spirit
problems rather than
as to
reductionist
what it
mechanistic attempts
And see,
to
that's
solve
where
certain things.
when we collab and we
So
talk
that's my
about it,
biggest hope is that we
you
can
give me
really
a little bit
look
more
at
about, and
ourselves
that way I can
past the
reciprocate that in the
stories that we tell
designs that you
ourselves
like,
and
exactly.
and then
want to add to that.
pitch them and draw 'em.
Yes.
Not the best artist, but I can get my drawings better than a
Right.
stick figure,
Citizen
but not
scientists.
Da
Yeah.
Vinci.
And see, that's the thing.
No,
All
but
this
for
is
real
about
though,
timing,
I'm like
Yeah.
really trying
we
to
know
promote
that
citizen
we'll be
science as
shooting
much
off
as
into
possible
winter and
because
all
for
that sort
one,
of thing.
it
But
is the idea
we
that
know
we
that we're
can
going to be able to accomplish
all be scientifically
in the
literate
next
enough to
to
month
understand
and a half,
these
we're going to
studies
be
that
able
are
to do
coming
so
out and
much
to work with them in our
after we get
events.
the property
We don't even have to
farm
understand the
on it.
studies. We can actually just
It's going to
experiment.
move
We can just
fast
try things.
because there's things that we're
Because the way
because
that the
it's
event
going to be a
operates is
sanctuary
obviously
for a
not
very
really
special
working.
group of people.
And I love the way that Dinah
And
is
so at some point,
really like touching on the children because
I
I
will
really truly
probably
think
actually
if
ask
we
you
get
to
the
come
kids
to the
inspired
house so you can see
by
what
the
you're doing.
mycoverse
Yeah,
and the
definitely. I always
microverse
like to see what I'm
and
working on in the area.
specifically
Man.
biomimicry,
Because
which
even
is
that
just
has something
relating
to
what
do.
nature
Yes.
is already doing to
Yeah.
solve all of our
And
issues. I think we're going to
I
solve all
I
of our
know
problems.
it's a bit of a trip for you to
Like
get around
there's
these
going to be
parts,
problems, obviously, but it's going to be a lot easier,
but
and there's actually hope. So,
and I'm not trying to oversell you on
where
the
there's my
idea.
No, no,
secrets.
neither am I.
Yeah,
And,
right.
I really truly believe
But
that if we do get
there
these
again, I
kids
feel
inspired
in
enough
spirit
to
and I
love
trust
their
that.
planet,
Yeah.
to love
And
each other enough,
whatever
that
what
they'll
you've
be
described
inspired
thus far,
to look at
whatever
these
you
things things that we've been
I know we
overlooking
would
that are
absolutely
literally
enjoy
right in
it.
front of
Okay.
us. We just need kind of like
So,
yeah, we're under us.
so anyways,
Yeah, it's
that's
it's
where
all
we're at,
right there.
and
I truly believe that nature
we're
has the
thinking that
solution
we're going to
for
have a
every
house in the
single
next,
problem that we've created.
hopefully the next 3
And
weeks.
we may
Okay.
not reach
And
this like
that's what
enlightened
we're shooting
stage
for.
where we've
And
solved
then
all
we're
of
just
it,
going to
but
go
we
from
just keep trudging on in the conviction that
branch
our
out.
children will be able to
Oh,
figure something
absolutely.
out, or their children's children
Absolutely.
will
I'm
be able
free.
to figure something out with
I'm
us.
actually out of
And that's really
the
where my
workforce right
hope
now.
comes from.
Just
And
taking
that's why I
I've been
want
taking a
to
step back from
just
film for a few
advocate for
years.
fungi
I'm actually going
specifically
back for
in the
cybersecurity
microbes,
now
all like
and working for
all
cyberspace and stuff
microorganisms,
like that.
honestly. Like
But
they're
other
playing
than
such a
Monday,
key,
Monday,
important
Wednesday, and
role
Fridays,
in
I'm
all
open,
of our survival.
and
They're
I'm
the only
easily
reasons
get
we're
out
here.
here. It's no biggie. I
I
drive up
mean,
to
like
Colorado
most of our
Springs
makeup
the
is
other day,
literally
so
microbial.
So are
coming
you
out.
both
Really that
veterans or
human.
just one?
Yes,
Which
So
branches?
armies.
there is hope,
I was.
and I
Yeah,
I
you
see it
were.
in my
What was your
senior
MO?
year. So I want
Back
to
in
keep spreading
79.
my
I got out
signal.
after
My
30
job
days.
here
I
is
was
Oh,
to
supposed
okay.
to
spread
be
that
the
message
office scout.
into
Okay,
And
okay.
I married a man who
literally
was in
spreading
field
the mycelium
artillery.
as well, and
So we
Oh,
went
like not
straight over to Germany
them to
right
spread the
after we got
message.
married.
Or
Yeah,
even just
yeah, but that was
introducing
back
these
in
mushrooms
the
for the
early
first time.
80s. We spent 3 years over there.
Anything
so
that
Germany.
Yeah,
That's
really
I
gets
signed
people
on, and that
thinking
was the
in
one
that
place I
pathway
wanted to
of
go. Was
Did
our
you
Germany.
get to go?
solution.
No,
No.
no.
You don't
They
have
sent
to
me to
see
Fort
there's
Hood
so
Oh
much
because
no.
I was a chem dog,
there is
so
hope.
they
Uh-huh.
were like
We
they
just
sent me
have to
over
get
to
super,
Korea
super
initially,
creative.
and then I moved
And
back
we have to
to
be
Fort
really
Hood.
passionate and
Uh-huh.
And
inspire
so
the
it's
kids
just
to be
like for my
passionate
job,
about
it
this
was
planet and about
Fort
each other.
Hood, Fort
And
Polk,
I really do
or
think that's what it
Alaska
comes down to.
or
Oh,
Citizen
Korea.
yeah.
scientists
Those are the
are
only four
really the
places
ones
I
that are
could
going to be
go.
changing
We
And so
landed
things in
in
an
Fort
exponential rate.
Lewis in
It's going to come
Washington,
from
and then
grassroots
Fort
levels.
Sill,
I truly think
Oklahoma, of
that
course,
I
after
know
Germany.
big
I was like,
corporations,
we're
of
done.
course, they
I
have
can't do
large
this anymore.
scale
I
things like
love
that.
Germany. Yeah, where were you?
I was at
I
Campbell
do think
and
it's
then
better from a
Afghanistan
community
Oh,
and then
perspective
okay.
and
Campbell again.
grassroots
Yeah,
You
yeah,
movements
so
know.
you go
and
back,
citizen
yeah.
science.
Yeah, I was trying.
Let's just
I
get these kids
bounced through
started.
Afghanistan's
deployment.
hard.
You know,
It
instead of
was it was a rough
weighing them
area,
down
but it
with
you know
all
shit
this
happens.
like
we're actually
super
trying to get a
messed up. We're in a
vacation
messed up place. That's all right. There's
once
solutions now. We got to
things
keep
kind of
talking.
settle where we're at, getting over to Germany.
Yeah, that'd be beautiful. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we
Get
want to
back over.
we want to go to Japan and do
Yeah, I wanted to
Yamabushi
sort of
training.
pick up on this
It's
idea
not the
That would be
official
awesome.
training, but at
pulls
least
the
you get to
inspiration
experience it.
Yeah.
and how
Walking
you
up
guys
Mount
stay inspired. I think
you don't know.
Oh,
It's
okay.
literally you don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, and you get to experience like sitting in the glacier waterfalls.
Sure, it's like
You
these
do a
things feel
prayer
so
there, then you
far
walk back and you wear the
out
traditional
of
robes.
reach and
You
out
go
of
up to
grasp.
the
And
temple at the
and
top of
before
the
I sort of
mountain,
hand the
and
mic
you
over, I
forage
wanted
for
to
food,
share
and then you sit
this
with the monks
funny
to have
story
a
that
Oh,
me
that's
fire
and Merritt
festival.
beautiful.
actually had the
And
idea
you get
for
to
their
enjoy.
project a
You
few
do
years ago
ancestry, you do prayer,
in
and
our
they teach
living
you a
room.
little bit
And
about the
we were
history.
That'd be
early
And then
awesome.
you
20s
stay
and
there the
super
night. You sit
psyched
with the
and like, we're
onset.
going to make
You
this
come home,
movie about how
and then
regenerative
visit the
agriculture is
rest
going
of
to
your
save
So
the
it's
family.
to
world.
help you discover
And
what
over
you don't
the
know.
years
Yeah,
that
apparently
passed,
it's
So
the
they
complexity that they stumbled into that they didn't expect necessarily. And when I told them that they should really come to Crestone after I spent traveling the
Right.
world, you know, they sort of
So-
expressed to me like, well,
Yes.
you know, I
Yes.
just
Yes,
I
she
feel
and
like
I
we've
have
gotten
both
so
been
bogged
through
down by all of the
separate.
obstacles and
Something
and also being sort of concerned of being,
And,
you know, downers in
and,
the community.
when you find
And I
out
think, like,
that
for me,
death
as far
is
as
not
inspiration and
the
hope,
end of your mortality.
what was so interesting to reflect on is
Okay, well,
having
Game
I've
changer.
been
to put it
for
plainly,
some years and
there's
being
a
here full
scripture in
for
the
a
Bible
year,
that says, "It is
like
appointed unto man
to
once
be able to
die."
say
to people who have been doing this
Well, of
project on
course,
such
the
a
whole
global
church,
level to be like the
Christian
solutions you
faith,
guys are talking about
thinks
are
that has to
actually
do with the
possible here.
avatar
And that
kicking
that
off, right?
context is so
No,
important.
it's actually a
And
very bad
feeling
rendering
really
of that scripture.
grateful
Yeah.
to be in a place
When
where
you go
there
into
are
the
some
Aramaic
obstacles,
or
but
the
maybe not as
Hebrew
many.
of it,
And
what you
that's
find out is it
what
says,
inspires me,
and
and I
each
think
man appointed
continues
to
the
himself a
passion.
wind
So yeah, curious to hand it over to you guys. How do you maintain that hope and inspiration in
Yes.
the face
And
of
so,
what sometimes feels like
yeah,
overwhelming?
so in that instance, so what you find out is that because we have been playing this story for so long, we're incarnating an incarnate because we're intoxicated with the drama of it.
Yes. Yes, life is a drug
Right.
itself.
It
Oh,
is.
yes.
It is. It's the highest drug there
But
is.
that's the thing is
I think
if you
for
believe
me,
in
and
the
I think this is
reincarnation
different for
cycle and
everybody,
the
but
spirit ether,
I feel a
and
lot of
your spirit
resonance
chose
with
to
the idea that I'm
incarnate
here to be a witness.
for a
And
reason,
so
whether it's
I
addicted
think
to
that everybody
money
has a
or
different
it's
role
a
in the
lesson to be
ecosystem of the world
learned.
that we're creating.
There's
And I
still
think some
something
people
that's
maybe
valuable,
get
even though
hope and
it's a toxic
expression from
how much
more than others.
you drink
So,
2
but there needs to
beers,
be
you
like the light
realize
bringers
you
too.
see something that you've never
And so
seen
I think for me,
Right.
it's like
because
I just really
brought
resonate
down
with the
those
idea
ambitions,
that
you brought
someone
down
has
that
to
conscious
see it
brain
as clearly as
just a
possible to
little
be
bit
able to
to see
articulate
the
and
world that
witness
lies
and
underneath.
hold
You know,
space
so
for
it's like yes, it's a
the
drug.
depth of
Yes,
complexity
it's
that we face as a
bad for
species.
you in excess, but
Because
still
otherwise, some of these local
that can
solutions
be
might not
used
end up
to
being as
cut
productive as we
the
want them to
frontal
be.
lobe,
If there's
cognition,
all of these other contexts
physical
that we need to
reality,
be
brain
considered, and
off for
I just
just
think
a
that part
second
of the problem
to
in our
see the world
society
that
is
you
we
can't
don't
see with your own
have
eyes.
Right. So
we've
in
been so
the
disconnected from
the
the
most
systems that keep
important
us alive. And so
illustration of our
often
life
we're not
pattern
aware of the
that
trade-offs
I've ever
that
found
we're
is in the
involved in
letters
or the negative
of Aramaic
externalities of what
or
we're
Hebrew.
doing or
It's
what
just the
kind of
same 22
what
letters.
we're trying to produce. And so
Okay, so in it, it
I
starts
think
at the
that
aleph and ends at the
we
top.
can all
And
experience
literally,
hope and
whenever
a
the
sense of
Christian
optimism
scripture
when we
says,
really figure out like what
"I
our
am
role
the Alpha
is,
and Omega, the
and
beginning
your
and the
role
end,"
might be to
that's not what it
you know
says. It was turned
sit
into
in
a Greek.
the
It's
shit
actually,
and
"I
like
am
really
the
feel that
aleph
or
and
like
the
hold
Tav."
space for people
But if you
going through
translate it
grief
properly,
processes and being
it's
feeling
literally
death
saying,
feelings. There is
"I
like a
am,
dark side that I
comma,
think can be
the
balanced with the
aleph
light side
and the
in a
Tav."
really productive and positive way.
All of it.
But
It's
I
you.
think like for the past
It's
like
your
as
I
we've
am
been really
presence,
elevating the
which
light
is
and
your
elevating this sort of
fractal
daytime
form
consciousness
of
The
God,
essence,
the more
yes,
the
masculine
all.
productive energy. And I
And you
think that
see,
there's
so in that
space
context,
for
now,
the death.
but
There's
here's the
space for
thing.
that. We have to start acknowledging that
We
in
have
order to
been
bring
going
God
through the
in.
22 letters for countless years.
Right.
I heard this
And
term
guess what we are
recently
at?
called tumor optimism, which I really like.
Yeah.
And I think it's
No
been
more
indicative
cycle.
of our experience of
Right.
traveling
It's
the world
done.
and
Yeah.
making an
You
attempt to
don't get
truly
to
see how
reincarnate.
far
You don't
we've
need
gone
to reincarnate.
with this
Now is the time for you
terraforming of
to
industrial
realize who
civilization. It
you
can really
are.
weigh on you when
Find
you realize
yourself
there's
again. See yourself again.
no stretch of
Come
the earth
back to
this
yourself.
meta narrative that we're enacting hasn't reached you, and that can really weigh on you. But I think through the radical acceptance of this situation, it really helps you see a pathway out. And I think what gives me hope is to indeed places like Crestone, where it's so fertile for
get right with
an
what's on in
open
here,
mind
you can
to
totally be right with
It's
what's
no
out there.
longer about what you learn because
and
you've
also
already.
what
You
you
don't need to
don't see
learn
how
anymore.
bad things really
You
are.
know it.
You just gotta feel it.
It's a
You
place
forgot
where
it.
stories are
Now
not
it's
being
time
told
to
and
remember.
it really is happening. And I think sometimes we
And so the
push things
Tav
so far
is
before we
not death.
even
Right.
accept
It's
a
the
new
end of one
possibility.
thing.
And
But
so that's
then
what gives me
every
hope. Is
time
we
the
visit
Tav
with
shows
people,
up,
and it
the
looks
Aleph
different in so
shows
many
up again.
places.
Yeah, it recycles
Of
back.
stories
But
being
the
enacted in
cycle
different
this
ways, of
time
different
is
cultural
because the
narratives what
Aleph,
we should
what
be doing
people
with
don't
ourselves,
realize is the
actually being
Aleph
enacted in the world, and
is
having them work in myriad different
Right.
creative,
there is no
abstract
beginning
ways that
or
I
end.
just
There
that
only
fills me
is
with hope.
what
So there
is.
is potential.
And
Right.
that's what that's
not
that's
over.
my
Really do good
fascination
on this
with
planet.
the infinity is numerologically I'm a ruling number of 8, so I've got this wisdom.
I love that you
piece,
just said
but
acceptance
the X
because
shape
that's something
in its
that
entirety
I
is
think when I explain
a
these
broken
doomy,
infinity
gloomy
sign.
situations
So
to
just to
people,
connect
they're just straight
everything.
denial.
If
And
you
it's just like, I
realize
don't even want to see that.
circle,
Why would you even bring that up? You're
it's
just like
just
definitely ruining the vibe.
Yes.
But
it's just
it's
opening
only
space
through
and
the
What is the
acceptance and working
oldest
through
symbol
that we can actually end up finding solutions. Otherwise, we're just going to shut down.
Circle
And
of
go
the
to
dot.
Yeah.
ourselves.
Because what
And
you're
that's
doing
not
is
a
you're
place that we want to
inverting
be. We
your
want to be a place where we can clearly see solutions, but
you're
also
inverting
clearly
your
see what's happening
duality.
for what it
You're no
is.
longer an entity.
And
Now
we need to
you're
walk
a
through
negative.
this. And so for me,
Because you come back
mycelium
to center
is
point.
that.
No
It's
longer
the
is the energy
it's the very
doing like
dominant
this,
presence
going down,
underground.
because
There's
it
very
and then
little
it has to
light or
draft
no
off
light at all.
something else to
It's
keep
very damp.
moving.
It's dark.
That's the vapor.
It's just
Okay.
I mean, for us, that'd be a really
But now it gets
inhospitable place to
reversed,
be.
and that
And
black hole,
I
that
don't
center
think we've
point,
acknowledged
now the light
how important of a
inside
role
you,
it plays.
which is you.
And I think that's maybe why we're so so focused on this like hyper masculinity and ripping away of the divine feminine, which is all good.
You have been
It's
very
very
much
research every time I play.
each time you carry.
So
This is
that's
ground level.
why I'm so grateful to be a part of this community and be spreading my ceilings all over the place. I mean, they really are just like these fungal threads. So it always comes back almost to me for my ceilings. I really have been pretty disheartened with feelings lately. It's hard for me to have
for you to
enough
make
hope
that journey
like, oh,
all
you can sit in this office. Although I
Here's
know
the
it is
thing, you've
possible,
always had your
I've
heart
seen what we
with
do
you.
also. So
Our
I'm
consciousness
I'm stuck
has
in that
never
middle ground
left
of
our
like,
lives.
I know it's possible and we
This
can
is
do
not
it.
the heart
This sucks.
all the time. The heart
But
is with
the
your
more we keep
consciousness.
spreading
So if
this
you're in
like
the lower
mycelial
self, your
thread
heart is
around,
focused.
the more it
There's a
acts just
scripture
like
that says
fungal
the heart
hyphae.
is
The way fungal hyphae act is that they're going out and they're actually learning.
the heart is exceedingly wicked.
To essential nervous system.
Yeah.
No,
And then
it
learning
says,
how to
it
break
actually
down
says
the
the
most
heart is
efficient way
extremely
possible.
melancholy.
It's not struggling with it. It's not denying
Yeah.
that it's there.
Because the heart
It's
is
really fully
waiting
accepting
on
the presence of that
the
material
mind of
and being
God
able to learn it, understand
to
it
call it
enough to
up,
break it down,
so you can
disseminate
have
it so
heart,
that
mind,
plants can use it for protozoic
and be
life
one in
forms.
yourself.
The crazy thing
It's
is,
really
when I
an
was when I
incredible
was little,
thing that's
I
happening, and the same
existed
exact
here
thing is happening with all
all
of
the
us. You're all
but
connected on that same level.
life
You can't necessarily see
puts you
it.
down,
We can feel
and
it.
so for a
Most
long
people
time,
can feel that thread. And I do think the more we can nurture, the more we can relate this back to the central nervous system, or central consciousness, if you will, and actually learn how to adapt to all of these crazy things that for most people are really phenomenal. But if we can walk through it, understand it,
feel that
embrace the suck,
go
and move forward with that, we can find
forcing
solutions.
itself higher and higher.
It's in that
And just
choose like found. So yeah, it's fine. And that's an interesting place right now in society. I haven't fully accepted this. I see what you said. It's also accepting my mind is dead. It's learn crazy.
think that
It's just a mixed absence.
yes.
See how the world's going to stay closer. Is the
Thing that
getting through that can be reverberate a new life. So we got into these old concepts of denial and fear that are holding us back. I know because we saw it.
like that. I just that
Get to a neutral thinking. See what you can. I see us all in the same thing with each other. Basically, it's like a giant
However you see it,
will together
all of things. You're the creators in close
I love where this is going. There's this thread here about stories and
the teacher was like,
as humans, story people, and we need the right story to know. We need to know where we are from this story. Because if we're not sure how the stories work, might seem like this is the last chapter and what did we do with this for? But one of my favorite teaching tools is to go with those stories.
so I turned
Fairy tales for some reason, or the older the story, the better. And when we go there, we see something happening in old stories. Usually it's the youngest daughter or the youngest
and she's like
of three brothers, and there's some truth, there's something wrong in the kingdom, and something needs to be changed.
And she didn't even know she took his papers. She's projected on you. You didn't put down two things. Don't get some.
it's like there's a
Together,
where there's this
and
gas cloud.
there's a theme that sometimes
I see that episode. I'm like,
no. So that's what shows us when we get somewhere. Our views matter. Plus, it happens. A lot in our schools over there. Are now
space.
I think it just needs to say that trauma is a passage.
2,000 miles away, somebody had that same thought.
Education is about
Help us
putting
out.
ourselves through something difficult so we can find out who we are as far as strength.
On this,
when that isn't held in the right way, it's
just like super.
very cheers to this.
But guess where it comes from? It comes from the Germanic languages.
Self,
Culture.
rights, 4 nights.
Yeah.
Without food, without water,
And that's where Buddhism teaches
and
it comes from
that
inside
community,
your
that
mass
both the young person as they go through their
here.
trial,
And that's where it
welcome
emanates.
them
So,
back to the community and
where's
as
Mark
a
from?
new person. Person who is
That just means that I
on
was
something.
keep talking.
So here is we don't even know that speaking our teachers can't and we can't see it ourselves. We're gonna find out. We go through the right trials, find the right trouble, or whatever community can hold us and welcome us home. So it's a teacher. Just succeed themselves. There's no arguments. If we're learning systems as an association, it can be something sometimes. It doesn't matter. So this is what's about. You try ways.
I've actually been in that situation.
And through that, we're going like these. So collectively, you guys are documenting this collective rite of passage that we don't know the solution.
Do it, Doug.
It's in the solution.
Do it.
Right now.
Yeah, real.
So
That's the moment to look for.
We're also in the music but we're in this part of the story.
But it's like one of my life stories.
Mistakes are learning.
I'm very
The best moment. I think I'm joking.
Right there.
But
Cool. It's really different to answer the question.
Yeah.
I wanted to
Yeah,
mention this. I think this is really kind of about obstacle, right? It's putting ourselves first.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
We trust in ourselves and trusting in each other. And so even in the process of putting this panel, I reached out to Goldie and Lydia and I'm like, I listen to Jake and Mary's podcast. I'm like, I cannot be on this panel. I won't be able to keep up.
Yeah,
And it was that so
I check that too.
Even though it's apparent and I hear it in the community on Facebook, we still, I think that's a very common thread. And so the honesty of how we are really doing, really cultivating that with each other. But with social media, we've really gotten to this place where it's a projection, and you create these stories, and the story of who that person or what they're doing or what their project is. It's like we really need to get into social permaculture is really helped to understand
given our area, we only have one bank in Trinidad, one food bank in
she's
Aguilar,
taking the
one
real
food bank
bank
in Chihuahua. So
So
we
if I'm
need
zero
locations,
zone,
each one
what's in this next zone around me?
So
That's going to be my
this system
type.
we can at least
And then you
get
pull into that next. That's going to be your project or your
leafy
work.
green vegetables,
Maybe
and then
it's for a spiritual group,
fish.
a club you're in, a
That's the
sport. So
donated
then you
directly
got
to
that
food
next
bank
vision to bring,
on a
and then it
weekly
broadens
harvest
out
basis.
maybe
So they can
institutionally, right? You're getting into a system.
Yeah.
You're getting into your own
Yes.
We are going to be reaching
Yeah.
out.
but it goes all
Soon that is just it's but they just said, look, they're
that
2020.
because how many
So it's gonna be a few people. It still seems like it's already done. We've already got our org structure. We do have a greenhouse structure. We have put it in the ground, we had it up, and then we had to redoing it deeper and get it locked into place. And once that's up, everything on the business side ready.
Ultimately,
Okay.
for me,
Just waiting for approval from IRS.
missing
We already aware of it, we're part of the state has already recognized us, so it's just our
work
wait
was
for us.
possible and ultimately is communicating with each other and how they were relating to each other. Because when we take that time, and so that's and I talk about the same way here, it's time seems to be like the biggest one. We all have so many pieces we're working and carrying, and we've complicated our lives to this level that how do we take that step back to operate at the pace of nature? And so I see that we're not going with the seasons. Obviously, we're not. If you do start to like learn as much and live with the seasons, we should be slowing down. That's the dust systems. And so with the indigenous practices, that's really come in of learning to operate at their pace where it's got that peak of energy in summer and that solstice and we're kind of coming off of that now. And so it's a really good time to come together. Then we need to start evaluating, doing the post piece of the event and slowing it down and taking the time. So in the winners will be
Sounds like once you've
really come up with an exhibition and then the buds that is street. For some reason, I'm finding really too as a local grassroots.
It is,
And it's been consistent from Chicago to the first reach to here. You often don't. You're just going to shelves on the states because it's not going to slow down.
All of this.
And that's the biggest challenge. So, you know, examples, the wellness panel is happening. This is amazing. So, Brett and I sat and ate. I went behind and I listened to it. So I'm going to do my practice because I was going, I need to go to demos and Chelsea's attending you. Crystal's and so I really understand it. Yes, I come in so strength and stuff.
That way, oh, you're just like, yes, she does have a website page. She doesn't. He's such a big name sales. She does.
Yeah, I am wondering right now, since I was curious about if each of you, you know, kind of walking the line, which so that's where you're having to deal with school, so economic issues. You know, like being a part of the whole where what's possible, but there's challenges, what's different. Maybe even have like a person who's like inspire you to keep on your path, keep going. You know, I'll share that I had an experience just recently with the energy fair. We decided to instead of having a final meeting, you know, like how our meetings were here, like Lisa invited us all to go to meet a sweat as our final night meeting. And it's so beautiful. And like, there was, of course, 10,000 little details that needed to be figured out. But kind of like what Lisa was saying, what's really important in these last moments is that we can really relate to each other and connect in a different way. And for me, just remembering that we are a microcosm, macrocosm, and if that can happen here, like what is big corporations were doing sweat lodges together, you know, like it's possible, right? So yeah, that's just a personal story of mine that like opens my heart and reminds me that this work is important and just you know, if you want to talk about like you're relating to people who maybe aren't so this kind of more well, either I'm wondering if anyone, if a story is coming up, like a personal story of being touched by having your heart open with someone who maybe is listening to more ideas. And if not, like what inspires you, Daisy, to just keep on and keep on?
We just come to like which should be the difference. Truly.
I'm going to shout out my friend Steve tonight.
Yes.
Sometimes the school structure isn't working for us, and we need to pull back and homeschool for a while. And because our loyalty is to kids in the future, it's not to the institution. The institution is there to serve us. And we saw the need to start something new, and we've got a little project we call Creative Courage, which is for the kids so that we can bring them art and music and passion, whether it's in the school, whether it's in the